And boy, did we tie it up in the end. It was tied. Hi guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to another video here on my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. I know this video is maybe a little bit of a surprise given my current scheduling and everything, but I could not wait to get a video out. We have to talk about Crescent City 3. We just have to talk about it. If you're new to my channel, hello. I normally make recap style videos going over either movie plots, TV plots, or book plots. Today, I'm going to be doing that, but I'm also going to be doing a little bit more of a deeper dive into my review of the book itself and also my thoughts and feelings on the characters. I just have a lot that I need to talk about, so we're just going to get right into it. I do want to say right off the bat that I am an SJM girly, okay? I don't own Throne of Glass. I have the other ones down here behind me. I don't own Throne of Glass yet. I'm not super sure which covers I want to get, so I haven't decided yet, but those are my favorites. Throne of Glass is my number one, then ACOTAR, then Crescent City. So know that in your hearts as you move forward. I'm not the biggest fan of Crescent City in general. However, I was really excited for Crescent City 3. I was ready to see how the story wraps up, where everything was gonna go. Because the reason why I have issues with Crescent City is because there is so much. I mean, you can see down here how big those two books are, the red and the blue. They're just huge books. They're like the size of Kingdom of Ash, which is the last book in Throne of Glass, but that's the series. So I was like, what's gonna happen? We know so much, there's so much going on. How are we tying that up? And boy, did we tie it up in the end. It was tied. So I guess in the most spoiler-free way as possible, I can go ahead and tell you guys that I was very disappointed with this book. I was so excited about it, and I was just really let down. And I know there's a lot of people out there, we're kind of divided right now, where there's people that feel like me and they get where we're coming from when we say stuff like that. And then there's people that are getting really defensive over how much they like it. And that's fine. I don't want anybody to think that I'm making fun of you for liking it or anything like that. I liked 50% of the book. The problem is that other 50%, it just didn't do it for me, and I gotta talk about why. So my opinions are just my opinions. I don't want to end up fighting with people down in the comments. I would, however, love to be able to talk about it with you guys if we have differing opinions. Let me know what you thought. Let's discuss it down below, because this is gonna be a hot topic for the next couple months while everybody kind of digests it. So know in your hearts though, there will be spoilers on spoilers in this video. So if you're not ready yet, just come back to this later, maybe save it in your watch later folder, come back when you are done, because I don't want to ruin anything for you. I do think you should go into the book knowing as little as possible, because this was my first SJM book where I didn't have a single spoiler, okay? I avoided the chapters, the bonus chapters that got leaked. I avoided those like the plague. I knew nothing going into this, and that made it really fun. But then the book itself, there were just parts that I was like, oh, this is not good. This is not good. And I was so sad. It boils down to me that I think the book was just too long. Ultimately, there was a lot of stuff that could have gotten shaved off or just cut completely. And I had a lot of editing issues. I read this on Kindle, and I know that people were saying that the printed copies also had some issues with editing. That, for me, is almost worse than anything else, because it kind of tells me that she's gotten so big in the book world that the editors just aren't caring as much, because they know we're just gonna read whatever she puts out. And I hate that for us so much, and I hate it for her, because I think even just Crescent City 2 is better than Crescent City 3, editing wise, you know what I mean? And especially when you know how much I love Throne of Glass and everything, I'm like, those books are top tier. And this to be her most recent book, when she's really ramping up her style and everything, it just fell so flat for me. And for there to be literal editing mistakes, manuscript mistakes in the book, that was crazy to me. I could not believe. Spoiler free, again, I can say that there was a lot of questions that got answered about the ACOTAR world and the Midgard world over in Crescent City, so that was nice. But ultimately, stuff just got handled so quickly, and there was just no real payoff, and that's where a lot of my disappointment is coming from. I'm gonna go through the whole plot and give you my thoughts and feelings. I'm probably not gonna do like every single scene. Cross your fingers that Carrie can read does that, but I did take notes as I wrote on each chapter, so I'm kind of just going through those and talking to you guys through it. So you're gonna get like basically the breakdown of the book moving forward from here, but we're gonna start with my thoughts and feelings on the characters, because oh boy, do I have a lot to say there. And I hope this will kind of set the stage for you guys so you know who we're talking about as I move forward into talking about the actual plot of the book. Again, please just don't take anything I say too personally. I'm not trying to offend anybody. These are just my opinions, but I do want to talk to you guys about it, and I would love to know how you guys feel down below. All right, let's get into it. So we're starting, of course, with Bryce. She's our main girl in this series, our main character, the main heroine, and she was so painfully insufferable in this book that she drove me to almost stop reading multiple times. She was just so truly unlikable to me in this book. It was crazy, because I'll be the first to say, as I've already said, Crescent City is not my favorite series. I'm not as attached to the characters. I don't enjoy the story as well. I think I'm just not a big fan of like modern fantasy, so it was just never gonna be my favorite. But I liked Bryce. I love that she's like our curvy representation. Curvy, in my head, she's a plus size queen, okay? I know on page she's not always described that way consistently, but in my brain, that's what she looks like, and I love that for her. But yeah, in the other two books, there's like moments where she annoys me a little bit, but I'm like, oh, that's just Bryce. That's just her personality. Like, it's fine. This book, though, it was like out of 15, and I was like, girl, what on... I could not believe the things coming out of her mouth. How is anybody listening to you right now? What is going on? The biggest thing was the way she treated Hunt, her mate and her husband. I could not believe the way she was talking to him, guys. It was such emotional whiplash. I said on TikTok that it felt very much like watching Ember, her mom, with the Autumn King, like the way that their relationship was described. That's how it felt watching Bryce and Hunt interact with each other. And I was like, girl, how many times have you called your dad out for this like narcissistic, abusive, genuinely like very abusive behavior, and now you're just doing it and you're not even sorry? Like, there were things that she said where then we would go into her point of view and she would be like, I don't regret any of it. I meant every word. And I was like, girl, don't be proud of that. You should not in a million years be proud of what you just said to that man. Oh my God. And this is honestly a note on the way it's written, because there were moments where she would be so mean, and then in the next chapter, she would be nice again. Or even like a page later, she would be like kind of walking back what she said and then immediately being mean again. So that's what led it to feel genuinely like kind of abusive, because it was like whiplashing him back and forth of like letting him relax and think she was going to be nice, and then jumping down his throat again, and then, oh, but just kidding, I do love you so much, and then being really mean again. And that was just like so not enjoyable to read, because poor Hunt was like trying to figure out what she wanted for him, and it was just watching him navigate this abusive relationship that kind of came out of nowhere. Like, I know she has done things like this in the past, and that's why I said, you know, there's things that she's done in the other two books that have gotten on my nerves. It was not to this level before, like this amount of it happening over and over and over again. You'll see when we get into like the plot breakdown and everything. It just kept happening. Whereas before, it would be like maybe one or two instances in the whole book she'd do something that was like, whoa, girl, like, don't do that to your friends. This was just like all the time. She was just constantly making these decisions that were so selfish and so hypocritical. It was so hard to root for her. When we got to the ending, I was like, yeah, maybe she should die. Outside of the way she talks to Hunt, she like gambles with the team's lives multiple times. And a lot of people, I'm seeing like this discourse of being like, y'all just don't like strong women. Like, Aelin acted like this and you love Aelin. Aelin didn't gamble with her court. She didn't make jokes about them dying in front of them or send them into like genuinely very dangerous situations without apologizing about it. And like, Bryce will do these things and be like, get over it. You need to just do what I want because I'm in charge. And then she'll be like, I don't actually want to be in charge though. Like, I don't want to be queen, but I'm queen. So listen to what I'm saying because I'm correct. And so the whiplash of her too, of her being like, oh, I hate the Fae so much. And then being like, you know what? Maybe I do kind of like my brother and my brother's friends and my brother's mate. And like, there's a couple other people that I'm thinking of too that I kind of like a little bit. It was just exhausting. I was like, girl, you don't even know. Because of the writing. Like, she didn't even know what she believed in, but we were supposed to follow her journey. And I'm like, I don't even know what she's saying half the time. But the way that the court, and they're not a court in Crescent City because Bryce doesn't want to be queen and all that, but that's who they are, you know, like her found family group. The way that they ended up feeling like pawns in a game that she was playing, and she really was just so dismissive with their lives and stuff, that was so gross to me. And again, it made it really hard to root for her because I was like, you don't even care about your friends. Like, you literally don't care. And I don't know how to like believe that you care when you're saying all of this so nonchalantly, constantly. Like, it was just bad. I know that's an unpopular opinion also to say like she should have died at the end, but I'm telling y'all, spoiler alert, nobody died of like relevance. So it was just so easy. And I feel like if she had at least gone out in some way, maybe with Hunt or something, I don't know. I wasn't happy with the way things shook out because it was just so embarrassingly easy given the fact that we had 2 books and this whole 3rd one building up to this like big battle for it to like ultimately be like nothing. Okay, now Hunt Athalar, Bryce's husband and mate, as I said, he's Walmart Cassian. He just is. And it's not that I don't love him. He's just never been my favorite because for me, he's so similar to Cassian. He's like modern day Cassian that I'm just kind of like thinking of Cass whenever I'm reading Hunt. But this book, he did grow on me a lot. We got to see a lot of his point of view, which has not been like a big thing in the other 2 books. The point of view switches. That's another thing we're going to get into, but I was happy to see so much of Hunt's point of view because it was nice to kind of see the journey that he was on. But then, unfortunately, you know, Bryce just ends up stomping him into submission, so all of that growth that he was trying to do just gets like dampened down to be what she wants him to be, and he doesn't get to have that like cathartic like self-discovery because it's like handheld by Bryce, and it feels abusive because in the end he's like, maybe she is right. Maybe she does know me best. Maybe she can tell me who I am. And it's like, Hunt, no. When I tell you I was frothing at the mouth for a Son of Hell arc, oh, I was ready. And then Bryce took that away from him too. Oh, I will say though, the things he said in the sex scenes are still currently haunting my nightmares. Like, I don't know who that was in that room, but I don't ever want to see him on page again. I hated it. We had a lot of chances in this book to see the men in the group healing from trauma. Hunt especially, I think, really had the chance to like face his PTSD, deal with what's happened to him, and kind of come out of it, you know, either weaker or stronger. I'm not sure. I kind of think he was going towards feeling really sad and upset and needing to like cathartically work through that and then come out stronger in the end. That would have been an incredible arc for him, but I don't think, honest to God, I don't think SJM knows how to write men, like the male characters, dealing with trauma, because we saw that with Rhysand too, where like he has been through so much and we know he's been through so much, and he sort of just paints over it with Feyre and then he's fine in the end. And it was almost worse than what's happened to Rhys with Hunt, because Hunt doesn't even get the chance to like fully voice what he's feeling. He's starting to like grasp these emotions and come to peace with it, and Bryce just like stomps on it and is like, we're in the middle of a war, be a man, get it together. And I just thought that was so gross that his response to that is like, you're right, I should be a man, oh, I should get it together, men don't cry. And it was just, it was horrible. I hated that, completely and totally hated that, because so much of what I love about her books is that there is a lot of sensitivity to the men, and we get to see them, you know, express love for each other, and their friendships can often be really dynamic and nice. And that was here for Hunt. We had opportunities for like Baxian to be there for him, Rune to be there for him, and him to like work through this stuff. And she just took it away and said, no, just kidding. You don't get to see that on page. You don't get to see that at all. He's not gonna do it. Rune and Lydia. They made this book for me. They really and truly did. I know there's a lot of people that felt like it was kind of rushed. It was. I'm not saying it wasn't rushed. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that given what was going on with Bryce and Hunt, I needed something to hold on to, and that for me was Rune and Lydia. They had the only romance elements that I cared about, so even though there was like that annoying whiplash where it was like, I hate you, I love you, I hate you, we're mates, I didn't really care because I was like, I just need somebody to come out of this happy, and like, thank God, I think it's gonna be the two of them. Lydia, also, big spoiler, is related in some way to either Aelin or Dorian. I can't decide who I think she's related to, but it's somebody from the Galanthinius line because she has fire magic, and there's other things we'll get into. But yeah, I mean, she's related to them some way, somehow. I can smell it, and I'm so excited about it. Also, I know I said it, but we got confirmation that they were mates, which I know we all knew it, but it was nice, and it was a nice reveal when it happens, so it was good. Let's talk about Fishboy and Ethan. They're lumped together because they spent the whole book complaining, and I wish I was joking. They both feel guilty about stuff that's happened, and they make it everybody else's problem, and it was exhausting to listen to how much they hated themselves. I couldn't do it. Every time we would go back to them, I was like, if you give me one more POV of these two grown men, I know Ethan's not as old as Therian, but these two grown adult boys being like, everybody hates me and I failed everyone and I'm so sad, but like they didn't do anything about it. That's what bothered me. Like the way that the arcs were wrapped up, I was like, oh. Fishboy, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming, and it was crazy. Ethan, of course, we knew what was going to happen to Ethan. That made perfect sense. It did not have to be like that. It did not have to be like that for him. What on earth was going on? Flynn and Baxian, on the flip side, are lumped together because these two snuck out of left field for me and freaking got me through the book. They had the best one-liners. Like, I was cackling over some of the stuff they said. The only two that really made me laugh out loud were Flynn and Baxian. Do y'all even know who Flynn is? Do you even remember him? Before any of you are like, who is Flynn? What did Flynn even do in the book? He grew several oak trees. Somebody's got to drive the car, and in this case, it was Flynn. Sathia and Sigrid. Sathia is Flynn's sister. Surprise, she's on page now. You're not gonna believe what she was brought in to do. Sigrid is the Findir, Danica's relation. Okay, she was supposed to replace Sabine and like be the new alpha and change the stuff for the wolves. You wanna know what happened instead? Ethan freaking decapitated her on accident. Then he raised her from the dead. She came back a Reaper, so she was evil. And then she attacked everybody with Sabine, so then Sabine killed the Prime, and then the Prime told Ethan that he was going to be Prime, so then Ethan becomes Prime. So why was Sigrid even a character? Personally, to me, I think that SJM changed her mind. I think in Crescent City 2, she was like, we're going to have a new Findir heir, and she's going to be Sigrid, and Sigrid's going to replace everybody, and it's going to be great. And then she changed her mind and was like, if I do that for her, what will Ethan do? And it wouldn't have been good enough for Ethan to be like number 2. So instead, she was like, scrap all of it. We're making a convoluted subplot for Ethan, and then Ethan will become Prime. Nonsense. It felt like that. It felt like a ridiculous scramble to change it up and fix it. It did not work for me. It did not land. If Ethan was going to be Prime, Ethan should have just been Prime. Also, him decapitating her and her coming back as a Reaper and all of that, that's what was wrong with Ethan for the whole book. So he spent like over half the book being like, I can't believe I killed her. I've doomed the wolves to a life of suffering under Sabine, and then became the Prime in the end. The Kings. This is the Autumn King and the King of Avalon, whose name is Morven, which really had me going because I was like, Manon, Dorian, Morven? We don't get confirmation or anything about that, but it was weird. Like, we knew he sucked also, so like, it was whatever getting that confirmed. I didn't really care about him. Now, the Autumn King, I might have an unpopular opinion here, but to me, there were multiple instances in the other books where we were kind of led to believe, like, maybe he wasn't as bad as we initially thought he was. There were just, like, little inconsistencies with him and, like, little tiny moments where it would be like, oh, is he plotting to, like, maybe help everybody? Like, why does he want to go back to the Akatar world? What's that about? Is he just missing his family? Is he an evil conqueror? What is it? And it just never fully added up. Spoiler alert, He is evil. So all of those little breadcrumbs that we may or may not have seen didn't amount to anything in the end. He's evil. We even find out his name is like Inar or Enar or something, which is so close to Eris. I'm like, he's so clearly related back to the Autumn Court over in the ACOTAR world, and so it was just like so disappointing that that didn't mean anything in the end. On that note of people just being evil, the Asteri, yes, they suck. Pretty sure we were supposed to be able to like 100% connect that like they are also the Valg from the Throne of Glass world. That was never like explicitly said, but there was one thing in particular that made me go, oh, okay, so they are the Valg. Incredible. This is kind of where all of the like things happening too easily came to a head, because we spent 3 books trying to figure out how to kill them. We figured it out, and then it was just like boom, 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 they're gone. We didn't even get to see all of them die on page, man. It happened so quickly. The final battle was like excruciatingly simple. There were no stakes. Stakes were so low. They were the bars on the ground. Let's talk about Hypaxia and Declan and Mark in connection to Declan. They did Declan and Hypaxia so dirty because they literally just became like, hey guys, we have a problem. Can you fix it? And so Hypaxia was like, the doctor medical friend. And Declan was like, techno boy toy. And that was it. That was all they were here for, okay? And then Mark, over here with Declan, because he's Declan's boyfriend, he was literally just like a hot and sexy leopard shifter for like a page, and then ran off and sort of protected Declan's family, but we never saw that on page. And I think he was helping them with legal stuff because Mark is either a lawyer or connected to lawyers. That was it. Once again, they were just like the problem solvers, and that sucks, especially for Hypaxia, because man, she was so cool in the other books, and then now she's just kind of the helper, the medical helper. Woo! The Ocean and River Queen. These guys, we finally got to like officially see the Ocean Queen. We knew the River Queen was kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. We knew her daughter was like extremely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, which I'm going to talk about that a little more when we get into the plot, because I didn't like the way that was handled at all. Ocean Queen, however, is scary. She is so scary. I thought she was going to be a way bigger player in the final battle. No, what ends up happening is these two kind of get like semi-recruited, even though they're like ultra powerful water magic beings. They basically just end up being like told, hey, can you take people from the city underwater and hide them there for us and transport the refugees around? And they both agree. And no one really does anything with water to help with the fight except for Fish Boy, which was ridiculous. Okay, so Jessica Roga. She's last on this list because, wait for it, she's the only one who dies. It's so dumb, okay? We finally get her backstory. We know who she is. We know what she's been doing. And then at the very end of the book, she dies. And I'm not going to tell you why she dies yet. We're going to discuss it when we get there. But when I tell you that that was just the most, oh, it infuriated me. Okay, now that you know all of that, let's get into the plot breakdown. We gotta discuss. All right, we open right off the bat with both of the kings in front of the Asteri swearing allegiance to them, saying that they had no idea their sons were rebels. Remember, Cormac is dead. His dad says awful things about him and is like, he's no son of mine. And then the Autumn King is also like, Rune, Dan, and who? I don't have a son anymore. So Rune is no longer the prince. Hunt, Rune, and Baxian are still alive. Thank God. They're in a cell together down in the dungeons. At least they're together. There's good and bad things about that. At least they're together. Lydia, remember, is the Hind, okay? She is not actively torturing them. I don't think she ever physically does anything. She is just overseeing it and telling the other boys, like the Hammer, which is Pollux, and the Hawk, I think. I don't remember what his name is, but those two, she's telling them what to do, and they're having a great time carrying out her orders. Rune has cut off the mind connection between the two of them, so she's trying desperately to like apologize to him, but he's ignoring her. Then we jump over to Bryce in the ACOTAR world. I'm gonna lump most of this together because the POV switches are exhausting, and if I was doing one of my like Throne of Glass style recaps, we would be ping-ponging like crazy. I'm gonna try to keep that to a minimum, so instead of going truly chapter by chapter. I'm just going to be lumping things together for you in the context of like the scenes where they're broken up. We're just going to put it all together. Just know though that these moments, even though I'm going to tell you a lot, it's only like the first 20-ish% of the book. Okay, she's only here for a handful of chapters. And before people get all titchy about that, I know it was early days, but SJM made comments where she said like the book's gonna be half in ACOTAR, half in Crescent City. So I don't think we were crazy to expect more from the crossover. It was decent. I liked what we got. I thought we were gonna get a lot more though. We do get to see Rhys, which was so nice. And in my opinion, he's back to like what he was pre-Silver Flames, because Nesta's point of view, I know we have a lot of complicated feelings about Rhys, okay, but I love him, all right? I don't know who he is in Silver Flames. I don't know who that man is, but he's back to himself in Crescent City as far as I'm concerned. Like, he wants to look into Bryce's mind to see her memories for himself, but he tells her that he won't do it unless she gives him consent. And when she says, no, screw off, I hate the Fae, he's like, all right, cool, sit in my dungeon and see how long it takes for you to talk. I'm not gonna pressure you. And they just leave her there, and they're feeding her and everything, but like, she can't get out of the cell. We learn pretty quickly, because we're in Bryce's head while she's figuring stuff out, that the ACOTAR world is the original world of the Starborn Fae, which, incredible news, love that for us. So Rhys and Bryce are related. And before you get excited and think, wouldn't it be so cool for him to realize he has family on another world, seeing as how he lost his sister and the only blood relation he has is Mor, and Mor's family is freaking batshit insane? Wouldn't that be nice for him to find more family to connect with? No. Nope. We don't even get to see Rhys find that out, okay? We don't even get to see it. Turns out that the ACOTAR world, I'm pretty sure we did learn about them in ACOTAR, but the Daglin, that were like the people that once upon a time like oversaw the Fae, and then the Fae oversaw the humans, that is the Asteri in the ACOTAR world, okay? So the Daglin, the Vogue, and the Asteri, all the same. This is the world that they got kicked off of, so they've been trying to get back this whole time. Bryce does end up showing Rhys, Amren, and Azriel because they're the three doing the interrogation with her, if you can even call it that. It's kind of just a conversation because Rhys doesn't torture people. Azriel does, but we don't get to see him in action yet again. I want you to know that when they see the memories finally and Azriel gets to see the guns, he's like, tell me more about those. Give that man an AK. I never thought I would say that sentence. Give that man a machine gun immediately. Please, a bazooka, anything. Give it to him. The tattoo on her back is in fact word marks, which we knew. So that's all confirmed that the old language is the one from all three worlds. So the Fae are connected that way. I will be the first to say that these opening chapters of Bryce over there, she was tickling me. I loved it, okay? She was sassy. She was kind of putting Rhys in his place a little bit. It was nice. And then it just nosedives off a cliff. Nesta gets brought in, and she realizes, oh my God, the horn is in her tattoo. They don't know it's the horn yet, but they know there's something funky going on with Bryce because Nesta's made, so like calls to like, that was on the bingo card, check it off very early. She knows something's up with the tattoo. So Rhys is like, okay, so are you lying to us? What's going on? I do also love that when Bryce sees Nesta, instead of being like, that's a cold bitch, which is like everybody else's take on her, she's like, wow, a warrior woman, how cool. I love that. And Nesta is also kind of drawn to how feisty Bryce is, which makes sense given like Imri and Gwen, you know, I think they would all get along. Azriel is talking so much. I saw somebody make a joke where they said that he talks more in like this beginning 20% of Crescent City 3 than he does in the entire 5 books of ACOTAR. And you know, they might be right. They might be right because I love Azriel from a place of like, he's in the inner circle. Of course I love him, but I'm not feral over him the way some people are. And then you hit me with Crescent City 3 and I was like, oh, this man's got jokes. This man's got a little bit of sass. There's something going on behind the eyes, and I could see it finally for the first time, and that was really nice. Bryce decides that even though everybody has been nice and appropriately apprehensive of the alien wearing hot pink sneakers that just dropped into their backyard, she doesn't trust them because Fae suck and Fae are horrible, and clearly Rhysand is just a domineering king dude, even though he didn't use his powers on her. she's like, I hate these people, I'm leaving. So she freaking like winnows down into the cell, like underneath the cell, the city where Moore's family's from, the Hewn City, where they're, so there's these monsters underneath. She gets through them though, because for some reason the star on her chest starts glowing again, and they listen to the starlight and they leave her alone. Suspicious. Nesta ends up popping up once Bryce takes a break and goes to sleep for a little while, because she's just like wandering through a cave system and she doesn't know where she's going, but her star is glowing like a little flashlight and she's following it along. Nesta shows up, Bryce tries to run from her, she causes a cave-in, so now they can't go back to the cell, they have to keep going forward, and Nesta's like, yeah, whatever, let's just go forward, hopefully there's a way out. I'm not saying that they don't have a good dynamic, I'm not saying it's not interesting to read this, but I am saying it was a hot take for Nesta to be the only one on page, okay? This becomes the Bryce, Azriel, and Nesta show, which I'm sure is setting us up for ACOTAR 5. But oh my god, I just wanted to see Farah one time. They end up getting attacked by one of the worms, which, if you'll remember, are called like Midgardian worms or something, so that's another weird connection that they have. Nesta fights it off with her, they get away, and they start seeing carvings on the walls that are telling a story of like supposedly the ancient fae of the world. So there's basically like women and like figures of like women that kind of look like goddesses that are fae working above humans. And then underneath all of that, there's like darkness represented. So like war and death and scary things. And Bryce is like, they're trying to tell us the same thing they tell us over in Crescent City, which is like, no matter how good things are, there's always evil lurking underneath. We're gonna come back to that, but that's what the story is. So Bryce causes yet another accident where she like dives into the water and Nesta has to come after her. And then we find out that Azriel is the shadows that have been like watching Bryce the whole time. We saw that coming. Okay, so he pops up. Now they're together. I simply could not stop thinking about the fact that Cassian is like up top somewhere waiting for not only Nesta but also Azriel to come back, and just like how deeply annoyed and concerned he must be. Bryce ends up like tripping in the river and cutting her hands. Suspiciously, her hands don't heal, but Azriel's quick to point out that her knees do. So something's going on there. The worm attacks again, and it turns out that Bryce planned it all along, and she tripped in the water on purpose, and she was keeping her hands from healing, so she was smearing her blood along the walls so that the worm would follow them, because she wanted to like get to wherever the star was taking her on her own and sacrifice Nesta and Azriel, even though up to this point they have done nothing but be like, you know, appropriately apprehensive. She ends up feeling bad though, so she doubles back to help them, and then they're like, girly pop, we hate you. Like, now we're really upset. Okay, we were not trying to kill you before, now you've annoyed us. Nesta uses the death mask, and this is something that everybody's been talking about. They beat the worm because she brings like a huge like other creature skeleton to life, and it kills the worm for them. Then Azriel has to go up to her, and she's like overwhelmed by the mask, so she can't get it off. And he's like, Nesta, Cassian's waiting for you back at home. He's in the House of Wind waiting for you. Feyre and Elaine, they're waiting for you. Nyx is waiting for you. Kill me. It's so sweet. Now, before you get too excited, do we get to see Nyx? No. No, we don't. That is, I think, the only time he's mentioned on page. They reach a cavern where there's no bridge to get across, so Bryce is gonna have to teleport using her special powers. Azriel has to like power her up, because remember, Bryce is basically a battery and anybody can like give her power. He does, and he gives her like the tiniest little bit, and she says it's like raw, crazy powerful magic, like stronger than Hunt's. Hello? She teleports them over. They see a big metal door. She opens the door and the star goes out, meaning they found what they needed to find. They go into this room, okay, and it says that Bryce's boot knocks against a bump in the floor, and that's when she realizes that the floor is carved to tell a story, and it's the story of the Midgardian constellations, so it's all connected, and she's concerned. Notice I said her boot bumps against something on the floor. I'm sorry, I thought multiple times we were told she's wearing hot pink sneakers. Did you think I would forget that? Like, that bothered me. it took me straight out. It took me straight out of the book. And I know it's such a small thing, but oh my God, it was infuriating because don't tell me multiple times, like 2 or 3 times, we're told she's wearing hot pink sneakers, okay? And we're gonna be told again later on that she's wearing hot pink sneakers. And then in this moment, they say boot. On that note, let's go check on the boys and we'll come back to this. Fishy is not doing very well, okay? He's working with the Viper Queen and he feels like a complete failure. Also, he's basically a sex slave at this point. She loves throwing that in and giving us no resolution to the absolute, like, heartbreaking trauma that would inflict on somebody. We're not gonna get any of it. The Dragon Girl, they start calling her Ari in this book. Remember her? She was locked up with the astronomer and Sigrid and all of that. Yeah, she's here. Notice I didn't put her in the beginning when we were talking about characters because she's gonna disappear and then show up, I shit you not, like on the second to last page and be like, what's up? No resolution. We don't even know where she was. Ethan has Sigrid with him, and while the boys, Deck and Flynn, are trying to like figure out how to go get Rune out of the dungeons, they end up over in the Viper Queen's territory looking for stuff. Sabine attacks them, so they attack Sabine on the Viper Queen's turf. It goes south. They kill Sabine, but you'll learn really quick in this book specifically that like nothing is fatal in Midgard because you can pretty much heal anything with First Light. I don't think we knew it was as extreme as it is presented to us in Crescent City 3, okay? Like, nothing is fatal. Sabine gets shot in the face. Her face gets blown off, and she lives and is completely fine. But because this happens on the Viper Queen's turf, the boys and Sigrid kind of get kidnapped by her, like, lightly. She's just like, everybody inside my house, we have to talk about this. And that happens, so their plans are derailed. Currently, they're kind of thinking maybe if they could get them out of the dungeon somehow, they could get to the ocean, get on the depth charger, and the Ocean Queen would help them. In the dungeons, our little trio of boys are starting to go a little bit insane, okay? They keep making jokes. It was really kind of heartwarming because it's horrible. Like, the stuff being done to them is really bad. I'm gonna be real with you. I didn't actually think it was worse than what happened to Aelin over in Throne of Glass when she gets kidnapped. I thought that was worse. I thought that was scarier. This, I don't know if it's because they're making jokes, but in the moment in the dungeon, we don't like really see them like totally like give up, you know? There's moments like where Rune specifically like kind of starts to break and you're like, oh, he's not strong enough for this, like it's not going to end well for him. But it didn't go on for very long. Whereas like the Aelin chapters, it's like a good chunk of Kingdom of Ash, you know, she's kidnapped and stuff. So I don't know, it just didn't hit me as hard. But I did like that they were together and they were making jokes and it was nice. Like but I shouldn't think that about the dungeon scenes, you know? I don't know. Rune does get his piercings pulled out, so no more lip ring, no more eyebrow ring. And also we get confirmation that like his tattoos have been like totally screwed up because they're like cutting into him and, you know, taking things off. And then his skin is healing. So he's got like ribbons of tattoos now, which I knew was gonna happen. I've been dreading it because he's so covered in tattoos. I was like, that's definitely gonna be something they take from him, is those. Like, that sucks. But on the other side, Hunt and Baxian get their wings cut off. Hunt had a moment here where he was like thinking about Bryce and he says like his mate, his wife, his princess, and it was so sweet the way he was talking about her. And then he very quickly ruined it by saying that sometimes when he blacks out from the pain, he imagines like sinking into her in like a sex way. And I was like, oh. Okay, Hunt, maybe not the time. It didn't even really and truly feel out of character for him. Like, it kind of made sense. I just wish I didn't know that. I didn't need to be told that. He's also being visited by sentient shadows, so he thinks he's going insane. He's like, I finally cracked. That's what this is. But no, it turns out it's just, his name is not Adidas, but Adius, the nice Prince of Hell, and then his brother, Apollyon, who is like a little scarier. Turns out these guys knew stuff, okay? They knew pretty much everything that Bryce went over and found out in ACOTAR. These two knuckleheads already knew it, which means that she didn't even really need to go to ACOTAR, but they say, oh, she wasn't ready. Hunt, you're still not ready. So there's something going on with Hunt too in connection to Hell, but we're not being told what it is yet, which seems unfair because at any moment Hunt could die. Like, go ahead and just tell him the truth. While Flynn and Deck are having a little meltdown in the Viper Queen's house, Lydia freaking shows up and makes it all worse because she's basically like, hello, I'm actually a good guy. I've been lying the entire time. I'm gonna help you break out your friends. And they have to be like, really? Like, what if you're turning us in? And she's like, why would I risk myself to do, like, I'm trusting you guys to help me. And Flynn ends up being like, does anybody else feel like they're on a really bad acid trip right now? I'm telling you, he had me in the palm of his hand. He was feeding me, he was keeping me fed. Even the little fire sprites love him. Like, he is such a delight. It means so much to me that out of all the boys in that group, the 3 fire sprites are like, we trust Flynn. We will be sitting with him and holding onto his hair and hiding behind his big shoulders. That's so cute. That tells me all I need to know about him. Also, a small side note, Lydia pushed up her like evacuation plan because the Harpy, who she killed, I think at the end of the last book, she has been told that they are resurrecting the Harpy. And she's like, well, great. If they bring her back, she will tell the truth about who killed her. And then I will be screwed. So I must get the boys out of the dungeons right now. And that's frantic mode, trying to get that planned. A secondary small side note, it bothered me so much that she could not decide if she was going to write Declan or Deck in the prose. I didn't reread these two. I just watched Carrie's videos. So I don't know if that's something they do in all the books, but it drove me insane that like on one page, we would have multiple uses of Declan and multiple uses of Deck in the prose, not in the dialogue. Because it would be one thing if he was always written out as Declan, and then when people say his name, they say Deck, but like in the like POVs, we're getting like, Declan said this, and then like 2 lines later, Deck said unhappily, and I'm like, pick one. Like it just didn't look right on the page, and it drove me crazy. It's small things like that, but man, I just feel like somebody should have caught that and changed it. Meanwhile, back in the dungeons, Rune is trying to like swing on his chains because they're all being like chained up from the ceiling. So their shoulders have like dislocated and everything. They're all in like excruciating pain, arms and shoulders, very bad. Rune has been trying to swing to the nearest weapons rack and get something to like break the chains. He realizes though that he's not going to be able to make it and he's getting more tired. So he turns to Hunt and says, how strong is your bite? And Hunt goes, excuse me? And Rune's like, bite my hand off and I'll have more length. I'll be able to swing farther. And Hunt is like, no. And he starts like blacking out and just like, that's the first thing I think for him that really is like, wow, I can't believe I got my friends here. And my mate's brother is looking me in the eyes, asking me to bite off his hand. I can't believe it's happening either, Hunt, especially for what's about to become of that whole situation. So Baxian, who's on Rune's other side, is like, let me do it. Like, Hunt, let me take the burden, okay? Let me do this. So Baxian looks at Rune and is like, okay, get ready. You can't scream. And then he proceeds to bite off, like chew through. This is what I think happened because they're chained up. So he chews through Rune's hand so that Rune has one arm free and he can swing from the other one. It is rough. Now that moment specifically, that was bad. It was so gross. So Rune gets the poker and then is about to start like lifting himself up to put it in the chain to break the chain off the wall when freaking Regulus and Pollux and I think the Hawk as well, they all come back in. So it was pointless. They get caught and stopped literally on the same page. Like the hand comes off, he's swinging to get the fire poker, he gets the poker, and Regulus shows up. So what was the point? And on that note of it being pointless, it's not even like he is one-handed for the rest of the damn book, okay? On Midgard, they can regrow limbs, so he's gonna be able to get his hand back theoretically if they can get out of the prison. And they're going to because Lydia's breaking them out. So it just felt like there were no stakes. And in that case, why did that scene have to happen, okay? When you're thinking about Throne of Glass and what happens to Aelin, it's horrific, okay? All the different times that things happen to her, but there's reasons for it. And there's like trauma that she works through and things that like from that point, later on, like other plot points will come from that. This didn't feel that way at all. It literally just felt like she promised us that bad things were going to happen to Rune, so she wrote in that Baxian chews his hand off. And that it was so pointless. It drove me crazy because it was just trauma for trauma's sake, and that's not why I'm reading a book. I don't need that. I don't need just like bad things to happen for funsies because she thought it would look cool on the page, and that's what it felt like. Anyway, they take some of Hunt's lightning for some undisclosed reason. Spoiler alert, that's how they're gonna resurrect the Harpy. So that is in fact gonna bother Hunt a lot, that his magic gets taken from him and then used for that purpose. And they trick him because they say basically, you know, if you give us your lightning, we won't kill one of your friends. And then he sort of like fights back against it. So they take his lightning and then say, Rune's gonna die tomorrow anyway, so get wrecked. Ethan gets told by the Viper Queen that if he does one fight for her, she will let him and his friends go. So he agrees, even though everybody thinks it's a bad idea. He doesn't go talk to everybody to get their input. He just agrees to it. They all think he'll have to fight the dragon, but no, it's Sigrid. And the Viper Queen says it's not just a fight, it's a fight to the death. Ethan fights her. He's sick to his stomach over it, but he's a good little fighter. She is an alpha, so she should be able to just like decimate him on sight, but she's not used to her strength or her speed. So when he goes to like get her in the shoulder, she moves a little bit the wrong way and he goes through her throat. And then when he pulls his hand out, she's so thin and frail that he rips her freaking head off. He's devastated. And the sprites are upset, so they burn down the meat market, but everybody gets away and they're racing off to the depth charger. Let's go back to ACOTAR, okay? In that chamber, we see a hologram of a Fae woman, and Asriel has the nerve to look at her and go, wow, she looks like Rhysand's sister. When I tell you my heart stopped. I was like, they're related? Oh, it was so much for me. The hologram is telling us the story of Queen Thea. I'm gonna probably say Thea, which is so much more horrific than we've been led to believe. Queen Thea and her two daughters, we're looking at Selene, and then the other one is Helena. The girls didn't care much about power, but Thea did. She let Prince Peleus convince her to work with the Asteri. They killed her husband so she could take over basically like what was the original Night Court. They didn't really call it that at the time, but basically the original Night Court. She takes it over and then works with the Asteri to get over to Midgard. Except Midgard is not empty like they were told it is. It's filled with humans. Remember the humans over on Parthos with the library and all of that? They were there already. So what does Thea do? She freaking slaughters them. So that's Bryce's legacy. Thea didn't totally trust the Asteri though, so she kept the Dread Trove, which is the horn, the mask, the harp, and I think the crown, which to my knowledge we haven't seen yet. That might be me being stupid. We might have seen it. I don't think we have. In a pocket of nothingness to keep them hidden from the Asteri. And when I tell you I hollered because I was like, the same pocket of nothingness where Rhys keeps the Christmas presents? I was losing it. I thought that was so funny. Slowly, with the help of Adius, who was kind of maybe Thea's mate, even though they were like separated by worlds because he was from Hell and she was from ACOTAR and then Midgard. Maybe they were mates. It's unclear. We also find out that the shifting Fae are the Fae from the Throne of Glass world. Okay, so the ACOTAR fairies came over and the Throne of Glass fairies came over and met up on Midgard, okay? And then over time, their magic kind of got shaved away and changed because the Asteri put a parasite into the water that like forced them to have to do the drop to feed the Asteri. Like it's all, they're parasitic, they're evil. So a war ended up breaking out between the girls and Peleus, who was working with the Asteri, and it went really badly. The plan for them to go back across to the ACOTAR world and cut off Midgard forever falls apart. And what ends up happening is Thea like breaks her power into three, keeps a little bit of it, gives part of it to Helena, gives part of it to Selene. And in like a crazy twist of events, Helena pushes Selene through the portal. So Selene gets through with Truth Teller and the mask and the harp, but the rest of the stuff got left in Midgard with Helena and Thea. It was truly so dark and twisted. Like this part had me sick to my stomach because Selene gets through the portal and it closes and she can still hear for a few minutes her people in Midgard banging on the portal, begging to be let through, or to at least let the children come through, and she didn't listen to them. Like, Helena and Selene were already running away from the battle, leaving their people behind, and then when Helena got trapped and everything, Selene got away because of her. But now Selene actively makes the choice to, like, let the people die in Midgard if it means that she gets to start over. It's a horrible choice. I don't know what any of us would make in that situation, like, but it was bad. It was bad to read. It was really hard to, like, see any sympathy for the Starborn people, because I was like, oh, so y'all suck. Yikes. And of course, Bryce is watching this and she's like, yeah, I feel no forgiveness for any of you. This just proves my point that the Fae freaking suck. And Nesta is an interesting person to be with her through all of this, because remember, Nesta was human. And so the Archeron sisters, like, grew up kind of thinking the Fae were evil, and Nesta still harbors, I think, the most resentment towards them. Well, maybe Elaine does too, but I don't know, Nesta will talk about it more than Elaine will. So it was good for Bryce to have that, but also I think it kind of just fed Bryce's need to hate the Fae. I was also deeply annoyed that she doesn't get to see Rhysand's reaction to this, because we know that he's the complete opposite, and we know that he grew up to be the kind of ruler that gives up literally everything, like body, mind, and soul, to protect his family and his people. I wish we got his reaction to Selene's story, because what would that even feel like for him? Because Bryce is disgusted, but it, like, checks boxes for her, and she's like, see, the Fae suck. Whereas Rhys has spent most of his life trying to actively not be that way, so how would it feel to know that his ancestors did that? I just wish we got to see it, man. Like, the door was literally, the portal door was open for Bryce to be presented with the ACOTAR world and see what happens when the Fae rise up to help each other, because theoretically, that's what happened at the end, okay? We didn't really get much of that in Silver Flames. We saw kind of the rebuilding sparks, but we didn't see a lot of it. I wish Bryce had been, like, able to go into the court and see Valaris and, like, have those moments that Farah had, where Farah was like, oh, there are good Fae in the world, there are safe places in the world, this is crazy, because you're telling me that Valaris isn't what Bryce wants Midgard to be? Like, you're wrong, you're incorrect. Anyway, Selene created the prison to hide her family home, because this island that the prison is on was once upon a time Thea's island. It was like, the halls and stuff are all, like, closed off because she turned it into the prison with the cells, and she put the monsters in it, and putting the monsters in it poisoned the land. So it used to be beautiful and special, and then they killed it, basically, to hide their family secrets, and then she passed down the story from son to son. But somewhere along the line, as we know, Rhysand didn't get told this, so we don't know. I think it's like 15,000 years, and Rhys is 500 years old. So somewhere in that 1,000-year breakdown. Ooh, I'm realizing now that that doesn't really make a lot of sense, because the Fae live for so long. So Rhys probably should know about this, because it's probably only like 2 generations max between him and Selene. I don't know. We don't need to get into that, but there's another plot hole that I just found talking through it with you guys. Bryce once again decides, screw these guys. I don't want their help. I'm not going to Rhysand. I will not be locked in a cell again. So she causes another cave-in, except this one breaks apart, like, the floor of the cavern that they're in, and they find a chamber underneath with a crystal coffin and a woman who is described as looking suspiciously like Maeve. It's not Maeve, okay? But suspiciously like her in this coffin. It's the member of the Asteri that Thea once upon a time served, and she was keeping her there in prison. So all of those carvings that they saw where there was, like, death and danger lurking at their feet, that's what this was. It was the literal chamber underneath the family history room with the crazy demon Asteri locked inside a crystal coffin, asleep forever. There are some weird moments here when they're talking to the Asteri woman, she mentions some names, and Asriel has, like, a surprised reaction to them. And I think we're gonna find out that he is related back to whoever, like, kind of in a Dorian and Kale situation. There was a royal line, and then there was, like, the best friend of the king once upon a time, okay? I think we're gonna find out that Rhys is obviously related to that royal bloodline, and Asriel is related to the best friend line, because the truth teller knife was the best friend's knife, and now it's Asriel's knife. So that's what I think we're getting to, but we're not getting to it in this book. Bryce, against literally everyone's wishes, opens up the crystal coffin. Okay? And then she's like, why are you guys so mad at me? What's wrong with you? And it's like, girl, you just unleashed the horrible monster that you've been warning them is trying to kill your world. You just let her out of the box that was keeping her safe in their world. Like, of course they're mad at you. She's so annoying. It does say, though, that when she crawls out of the coffin, it's like watching a hatching spider. And I was once again like, Maeve, I see you. We learn the Asteri put kill switches on all their different worlds so that if something was to like go wrong and they were to be kicked off again, they could just very easily like Control-Alt-Delete and blow up the world along with the people trying to hurt them. We also learn about thin places, which are places where the couple worlds that we've got overlap. Normally they're veiled with mists. So the prison island, Avalon is also basically like a replica of the prison island. I think if we looked at the maps, they're probably like on top of each other. Even the river house. So I thought that was really cute that Rhys picked the river house just because he liked the land and that's where he wanted Feyre to build a house. But it's a thin place and he's starborn and his people are world walkers. So that's really freaking cute that that's where he put his family home. That meant so much to me. Bryce was hoping to get information out of her and also kind of figure out how best to kill the Asteri. But Nesta and Azriel are not having any of that. So obviously they kill her. And then Bryce is upset that they killed her. But I'm like, girl, a crazy vicious monster. Yes, of course they're going to take her out before she can get upstairs. Because of course there's a First Light core underneath the floor of this prison island. So she starts sucking that up. And Nesta and Azriel quickly kill her before anything else can happen. Her blood is described as being black. And then later on, Bryce is like, maybe it was just really dark. And I'm like, no, the first word was correct. So confirmation, in my opinion, the Asteri, the Daglin, they're Valg. It's all the same. And then Bryce opens a portal using the crystal coffin as a gateway and drops back into Midgard. And she takes Truth Teller with her. I've never been angrier in my life. I wanted to go into that book and just sock her in the face. I was like, how dare you take Azriel's freaking emotional support knife? He doesn't have anything else. That is his only happiness and you took it from him. This ends around chapter 27, 28, and that is the end of the crossover. So do you guys see why I'm disappointed? Like, things happen at the end, but that's ultimately like pretty much all we get from the ACOTAR world. So we really only spend time with Nesta and Azriel. And I just wanted to see Feyre. I just wanted to see Feyre. Just put her on page, just for a minute. I would have taken anything. Back to the boys, Deck, Flynn, Fishy, and Ethan get to the depth charger, but then Ethan hightails it back to the city out of nowhere because he has entered his like depression idiot era and he's like, I have to make it right, and they can't stop him because it's not safe in the city anymore. So they get on the boat and he leaves. He goes to the House of Flame and Shadow to see Jessica and he's like, can you please get me in contact with somebody who is a necromancer who can raise Sigrid because I accidentally killed her and I would like her to come back. She's like, sure, I could probably do that for you, but you're gonna have to earn your keep. So she makes him work basically in the position that Bryce was in as her assistant. We learn about her though. Okay, the books that she has are in fact from the Library of Parthos. She was alive 15,000 years ago when the Fae from ACOTAR came over to Midgard, okay? She remembers all of that. She was part of like the humans that were being attacked. She was a priestess in the library because the libraries are all similar, okay? So like the Tor over in Throne of Glass and the library that Rhys has where the priestesses work is all the same, okay? Not literally, but like they're very similar. So she was a priestess there, she escaped, and then the Prince of the Pit, I think, Apollyon, he like stopped her from escaping and said like, I know that you are trying to plan to attack hell with these books. And she was like, no dude, I'm just a human with my special magic books. Please leave me alone. And he was like, I curse you with long life so that one day you'll give up and tell me the truth. And she's like, okay. And she's been kind of hiding from him this whole, not really hiding, but you know, defying him this whole time because she's not lying. So they're not trying to kill hell with these books. So now she's just been alive for 15,000 years. Bryce comes back over to Midgard and lands in her dad's office. She spends some time locked up with him while they both kind of try to use each other to get information about what's going on. This is again when I was like, okay, what's going on here? Like, are we wasting time with him? Is he lying? Like, what's happening? Because it felt like they were making breakthroughs and then, you know, struggling again and then making a breakthrough and then struggling again. Like, there is even a moment where he straight up admits that he's jealous of Randall because Randall ended up with Ember and he got to raise Bryce. And Bryce is like, then why did you kick me out when I was a kid? Like, why did that happen? And he's like, because I couldn't handle it. So I don't know. It was just, why learn that about him? Why did we need to know that he is full of regret and he is really sad and that is part of what's wrong with him if in the end he was just a bad guy? It was just dumb. Bryce spends time in Rune's childhood bedroom. He has black silk sheets, which means so much to me, more than I can say. She sees the balm he used hidden in like one of his desk drawers, which, yeah, the Autumn King used to burn him as punishment. So he's not a good guy, but then why do we have these moments of like, maybe he could be redeemed? Just kidding. It was exhausting. She also eats a ham and butter sandwich. My best friend and I were like, what do you mean? What does that mean? I've never been the same since I read those words on that page. I've not recovered. Bax, Hunt, and Rune get taken out of their cells, okay? They're gonna be taken to the Asteri to meet with them in person, and Rune's gonna be executed. Lydia gets involved, and in the elevator, the Hawk says something, and she's like, haha, I agree. And then she shoots him in the face, and then she shoots the Dreadwolves in the face because those are like her guards, you know? She turns on everybody. She's getting the boys out. Rune has a total and complete breakdown, okay? The second they're in the car, baby boy starts crying. He was not gonna last much longer. I love that confirmation that he is our soft boy, okay? Hunt and Baxian probably could have handled a little bit more, a couple more months, maybe a year. Rune, he had hours. Bax is in the back of the car up on top of the Jeep using the big gunner machine. And there's a moment that just lives in my mind rent-free where as they're escaping, the gate that they're running under comes down and hits the back of the car. And they all look frantically to the back and Baxian is like holding on to the back of the Jeep, just like grinning like crazy. The gunner gets ripped off. So he absolutely almost died, but he's having the time of his life. Deck calls and he asks for Rune, and when they talk to each other, Rune is still having a sobbing breakdown. He's like, I love you, man. And Deck's like, tell me that when you see me in a minute. And it's just, oh, it's so cute, guys. Like, I love the way she does friendships, okay? And that is, again, parts like this, I'm like, it's everything. And then there's these moments where I'm just like, I'm so bored. I've never been so bored in my life. Lydia ends up sacrificing herself. So she turns into a deer, which is her shifting thing, which a deer, you mean like Terrasen? Oh, man. She runs off to distract the Dreadwolves and Mordok. Rune is given to Hunt and Baxian, who have now regrown their wings because Lydia gave them medicine. They fly him to the depth charger, and once he's gone away from her and he realizes that she's about to die, he's like, hold on, I take back everything I said. We have to go back for her. She can't die. And he starts panicking. Basically, Lydia is racing towards this cliff. She ends up shifting back into her human form and jumping, but the men that are chasing her get to her in time, so they end up shooting her through the heart. And we get a line that says, like, Lydia laughed through a bloody smile as she died. Excuse me. But Fishboy is also on the depth charger, so he gets into the ocean and shoots up a wall of water and catches her. So, like, maybe she's gonna be okay. Can you regrow a heart? We're about to find out. The chase scene, again, was really good. Up to this point in the book, I was having a good time. This is, like, around chapter, like probably before chapter 35. So this is like the first, you know, third of the book. I was having a good time for the most part. She wakes up, Rune's been watching her because he feels really guilty. She takes off when she realizes she's on the depth charger. She gets to the school. She goes to the year 9s. She looks in and we see 2 twin boys and we realize that those are her children. Bet you didn't see that one coming. I sure didn't. They are named Brian, spelled with 2 N's, and Acetan, I don't know how we're supposed to say his name, but it's spelled with an A-E spelling, like Aelin and Adian. I wanted to fling myself out the window. I was losing my mind. Now back to Bryce at her dad's house. This is another moment that annoyed me so much. I'm gonna explain to you what happened, and then I'm gonna tell you why I'm upset. She basically goes to see him in his office and like tricks him by being nice a little bit and like gets close to him and then locks him into the shackles that block off your magic because he's been keeping her chained up in them. Turns out she was lying the entire time. So she came to see him on purpose, and she banked on the fact that he would probably think she was like his bumbling daughter and she didn't know how to use her power properly. She also found the key to the shackles in Rune's room, and she broke herself out like he used to, because not only did the Autumn King used to burn him, but he would shackle him up so that he couldn't use his magic to fight back. She ends up locking the king in the basement closet and leaving him there while she escapes. Now, why is this annoying to me? Let me tell you. We spent all these scenes of her at his house in her point of view, okay? So not only was she lying to him, she was lying to us, and now she's unreliable and I don't trust her anymore. It was infuriating and a little lazy. Like it didn't have to be written that way. But we saw her land in the office and be like, ugh, why did it have to be him? I'm so upset that I'm here. So was she lying in her own head? And then we see when she opens up the drawer in his room and finds the bomb, but we don't see her find the keys? What? Over on the depth charger, Hunt, Bax, and Fishy get a visit from the Ocean Queen. She is scary, scary, scary. She shows up and she's like a tiny little lady, okay? She walks down the hallway and there are wet footprints trailing behind her. That detail did something to me. It like scratched my brain in the best way. I loved it. Bax and Hunt aren't really in trouble, but Fishy is about to get his like tail handed to him when Bryce just sweeps in and is like, excuse you, but I'm Queen of the Fae and he's a member of my court. Don't touch him or it's an act of war. Bryce, for the most part, okay, she's done a couple things I didn't like taking freaking Azriel's knife, but she had me still, okay? She was feeling a little Aelin-esque and I was into it. But we don't get a big flashy reunion between her and Hunt. Like he stays in his chair and she just sort of comes over to him and it was cute. Like I didn't not like it, but thinking about it, I'm like, it is a little anticlimactic because of what they've gone through specifically. You know what I mean? They literally just walk up to each other and go, hey, hey. And it felt like them, like it didn't really feel out of character. It was just a surprising choice, I think. Once the Ocean Queen leaves, we hear Baxian quietly in the corner go, that was epic. I think maybe I just need this man biblically. I think that's what it is. I think I'm just in love with him. Oh well. Rune comes running into the room full sprint, and now that was the emotional like reunion that I wanted, okay? He sprints into the room, sees her, they jump on each other, they're hugging. It's so sweet. But unfortunately, this is also where things start to go deeply south for me, all right? This is when I was like, whoa, what's going on? Hunt is not doing well, and the way I read it is that he has been holding it together as best as he possibly can. We already know he's struggling, but he's been like trying to keep it together, trying to be strong. Bryce shows up and he's like, oh, thank God she's back. And I think that that was like an emotional release for him. So it would have been nice to see him cry or freak out or have some kind of like meltdown, because he was definitely building to one. And instead, Bryce immediately is like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you need to get it together, okay? Because I fought a worm in a cave. I dealt with more than you, okay? Knock it off. She literally is annoyed with him for not being himself. Just completely disregarding that like what he just went through was bad enough. I know it was only a few days. I think maybe it was only like a week that they were in the dungeons, if it was even that long. But it was really bad, okay? We've gotten Lydia's point of view, Rune's point of view. The stuff that was being done to the three of them was awful. So that's bad enough. But then he has, like I've said, all this PTSD, and all of that got brought back up in those days in the dungeon. Of course he's not himself. Of course he maybe needs a small break or a nap or a warm bath. It would be great if his mate and his wife and his best friend, as they so often refer to each other, could understand that a little bit and be just the tiniest bit gentle with him, but no, she just tells him to man up and get over it and move on. Communication will continue to be an issue with them. And I know that we saw that in the other two books, okay? I think that I naively thought, surely now that they're married, they'll work on it a little bit more. No, they don't. The team now are leaving the depth charger and going to Avalon because Bryce wants answers. A little more info about the twins for you. Bran has an inner wildfire and blue eyes, where Aesotean, they call him Ace, I'm gonna call him Ace, he is like quieter. She says he's like solid, quiet stone to Bran's wildfire. And he has dark hair and golden eyes. I think they're related to Dorian and Manon, dude. I don't think that they're Aelin and Rowan's people. I think they're Dorian and Manon's people. They have two adoptive mer dads that Lydia left them with when she made a deal with the Ocean Queen because she got pregnant in this like family ritual that we don't learn a whole lot about. It was just some kind of like ancient fertility thing. So she doesn't even really like know who their dad is. Like the families didn't know, and it was very quick and like not romantic in any way. But she ended up getting pregnant. She had the boys, and she was with Pollux at the time. So she was terrified of him getting his hands on them. So she gave them to the Ocean Queen and then turned rebel for the Ocean Queen in like as a trade. Make sense? The boys even get described as the sun and the moon though, which was literally like how Aelin and Manon were talked about. Help me. Lydia also has a ruby ring that sounds really similar to Rowan's ring at first glance, but I did see somebody point out on TikTok, and I thought I remembered this too, so I was glad that somebody confirmed it for me. Rowan and Aelin's wedding rings, I'm pretty sure both of them are like embedded stones, which means like it doesn't sit up from their hand, you know? So Rowan's ring is golden, but there's an embedded ruby. Lydia's ring is like gaudy, and it's like a big rounded ruby on top of the ring. I actually thought maybe it was Goldrin's ring, like from the hilt of Aelin's sword, but I don't know if they would have done that. And I also don't know, I think maybe the ruby exploded because I remember Aelin putting her power in it. So that ruby might not even exist anymore. So I don't know. I think Lydia's going to end up being connected to Manon, and then through Dorian, Aelin's bloodline. That's the hill I'm dying on at the moment currently. Bran is really curious about her, but Ace kind of doesn't want anything to do with her. They both know she's the Hind, but they have TV underwater on the boat, so the boys know about the Hind, and then when they saw Lydia, they recognized her. They just didn't know she was their mom until this moment. Please, we get a moment where she bucks up at Rune and she's like, the only reason why you're interested in me now is because I gave you an appropriately sad sob story, okay? So now you just think, oh, the poor delicate female, like she needs my help. Typical male strength. And Rune goes, you seem to like my strength plenty, sweetheart. I about passed away. I could not handle him in this book. Ooh, top tier. Some drama goes down with Ethan back in Crescent City. All you need to know is Jessica saves him, and then Hypaxia shows up finally because she has been called in as the necromancer. She was dethroned, and she is no longer the Witch Queen. Remember how we were kind of afraid that was gonna happen? It happened, so she's not the Witch Queen anymore. When she does the little spell though, as I've already told you, Sigrid makes the choice to become a Reaper instead of just coming back to life because she's so mad at Ethan. And the Underking shows up and basically like takes Sigrid away to train her. They realize though that they could still fix it maybe if they had a Thunderbird. So they're gonna go get Sophie's body. Remember Cormac's girlfriend Sophie? Yeah, remember how long she's been dead? They're gonna go get her body from wherever it is, resurrect her, and then hope for the best that there's enough lightning still in her body to fix Sigrid. Sure. Also, the Asteri launch a counterattack because when Lydia broke the boys out of prison, she also broke out like the queen of the fire sprites and had her help lead a line of explosions down the spine, which is how the Asterian guard moved through Midgard. So they blew that up. So now there's not an easy way for that to happen. So in retaliation, the Asteri kill all of the rebel bases and they fire brimstone missiles into the section of Crescent City where the humans live. When the team gets to Avalon, they are greeted by a stag's head boat, like a white boat with a stag's head carved into it. Because apparently Morven calls himself the Stag King. His throne is antlers. And you're telling me I'm not supposed to know he's from Throne of Glass. You're telling me that that's not connected. I don't believe you. Fishy, even though he's been told not to leave the boat by the Ocean Queen herself, he's like, I'm not leaving my friends. She can't tell me what to do. And he jumps onto the boat with them and goes into Avalon. And because of the mists, she can't get in to stop him. But now they have yet another scary royal very upset with them. So Bryce is annoyed. And you know what? She should be. In this moment, I was like, yes, you should be mad at him. Sathia, Flynn's sister, who we have heard about at least one other time. We knew he had a sister. She was not surprising. I was just surprised to see her in this moment. She shows up in Morven's main castle because some of the Fae over on Crescent City are running to Avalon to hide because they know stuff's going down, like the brimstone missiles and everything. They're getting nervous, so they're migrating over. But Morven is like super old school, so unmarried girls aren't allowed in, and they don't have a lot of girls already on Avalon because it sucks there. So he's trying to force Sathia to pick one of, I think his sons, I think they're Cormac's brothers, maybe they're Cormac's cousins, so then they're Rune and Bryce's cousins, I don't know. They're the murder twins. He wants her to pick one of them and marry them, and then she can go into Avalon, but otherwise she's just locked in the castle. So Fishy is like, oh, okay, sure, I'll marry her. What? Also, the twins are named Seamus and Duncan, because I guess SJM decided Scotland exists in Midgard. The Avalon King and the Murder Twins also have shadows, similar to Cormac's, but not exactly the same, because Cormac's were a little bit closer to runes, okay? But right now, we have like Rune and Rhys with this type of shadow magic, which is mostly like nighttime darkness. And then we have whatever the heck's going on with the Avalon men, and they've got like scary, dark, oppressive darkness, okay? Similar to the Valg or the Princes of Hell. I don't know what it means because nobody confirmed anything, but Azrael also has shadow magic, and I think personally his is falling somewhere over here with the Avalon men. But I really desperately wanted Rhys to find out about Rune, because right now those two boys are like the only two with that kind of like shadow star magic, and they're all alone in using it. And I'm like, wouldn't it be nice if they could talk about it with each other and bond over the fact that when they look into each other's faces, it's like looking into a mirror? Wouldn't that be kind of cool? Nope. Not this book, I guess. This is when, also doubling back on something I just mentioned, I stopped thinking that Rhys was Vogue, because the Murder Twins are described as a little bit more Vogue-like to me, and the way their magic is described feels that way more so. Rhys and Rune, I think, are just Starborn. Fingers crossed, because I don't want him to be evil. Fishy and Sathia bond over how, like, they're gonna be okay together, but they also can't get divorced because of the Fae laws basically being Catholic Church laws. That was a lot. Unless Fishy dies, Sathia is just stuck with him forever, because if they divorce, no Fae male will ever want her again. Okay? Also, he ends up lying and saying that he ran away from the River Queen because he didn't want to spend his life as a royal concubine, which is an interesting way to say that you lied to and manipulated the River Queen's daughter into being with you, giving you her virginity, which was a really big deal to her, okay? I'm not saying it needs to be presented that way, but to her, it was a big freaking deal, and he knew that, and he did it anyway, saying, oh, I'll love you forever, I'll marry you, and then he just strung her along for years because he realized, actually, you know what, she's kind of crazy, I don't like her, I don't want to do it, I never wanted to do it. Interesting, Fishy. They want us to forget about that. They want us to be like, that doesn't really matter that that happened that way and we know the truth, okay? Fishy's redeeming himself now and he's a good guy. He's not, though. I don't think he is. There's also some weird tension here between Morven and Lydia where, like, they clearly know each other. There's, like, a level of, like, comfortability between them where he's willing to just, like, pop up beside her and like talk to her on an empty balcony, and she's not really afraid of him. I don't know if it's just supposed to be that they knew each other from like when she was the Hind, and so he was like up the Asteri's butt and so was she, so they were like kind of overlapping in that sense. I thought we were gonna get like a family reveal or something, because we know that like tensions are high with her dad, but no, it turns out she killed her dad. So it can't be Morven. So who is it? The gang breaks off into two, okay? Fishy, Hunt, Bryce, Baxian, and Sathia, yeah, go over to the caves, which is where Prince Peleus's grave is supposed to be. That's like the Starborn Prince caves, where Rune got the sword once upon a time. They're going that way. In the archives, Rune, Lydia, Deck, and Flynn are staying to like hopefully find some information. Spoiler alert, they find absolutely nothing. Rune gets all hot and sexy with Lydia in the hallway outside their bedrooms, and I was just like, oh my god, it was everything to me. But now she's a little nervous about him trusting her and like letting each other back in too quickly, so she pulls away from him. We get some awful moments in the caves of Hunt brooding and feeling upset and dealing with his PTSD and trying to decide how he needs to move forward, and Bryce being like, hey, can you do that some other time? We're kind of busy here, knock it off. She also starts ramping up her hatred to the Fae and going on and on about how she could care less about them and their customs and their traditions, and she doesn't care, even though freaking Sathia and Flynn and Declan and Rune and Lydia, like all of those people in her, you know, quote unquote inner circle are Fae. She is half Fae. Girl! Team Archives, the next morning, Flynn and Declan don't come to breakfast to meet Rune and Lydia, and I was like, oh, so something's horribly wrong. The boys are missing. Where are the boys? Because if there's one thing those guys are going to do, it's eat. Okay, there was literally a scene a couple chapters ago where they were late to the rendezvous point because they found the waffle machine in the depth charger kitchen. But it takes Rune an embarrassing amount of time, like a full day and a half, to realize that his bestest best friends have been taken somewhere else. Team Caves gets attacked by the two kings. They're using Deck and Flynn as bait, and Bryce is like, well, I'm not going back with you, so if you're gonna kill them, go ahead and do it. This is when I really and truly lost interest with her, because the stuff with Hunt was like ramping up and getting really bad, and then she starts just gambling with her friends' lives. Like, I know that she is not as close to Declan and Flynn. Those are Rune's best friends. What? Like, I just feel like you shouldn't even joke about it. It's not funny to gamble with your people's lives. She also ends up causing a cave-in and leaving Declan and Flynn back with the kings so that her group can escape into the river system, because she's figured out that this cave system is almost identical to the one Selene made underneath the prison. So she's realizing slowly that Helena probably made this place, and I bet it works the same. So she's trusting her star to like lead them down the river to the right place. Hunt, by the way, is livid when they get out of the water. He's like, how could you do that to them? Why would you leave them behind? Why didn't you warn any of us? What's wrong with you? And she goes, I'm sorry, Hunt, but somebody has to lead. He apologizes for snapping at her, which is ridiculous on so many levels, because somebody needs to put her in her place. This is the moment where he's like, I'm really sorry, you know, I'm struggling and I'm trying to be what you need me to be, but I'm just really dealing with, you know, the stuff that happened and I don't think I'm okay yet. And she goes, yeah, I can tell. Can you get it together though and be a man? Because in case you haven't noticed, we're at war and there's stuff that needs to be done. So I need you at full strength at my side so that you can handle it for me. And she's not even sorry later. Like, this is the moment where when it switches to her POV, she's like, I meant every word I said to him. I was correct and I regret nothing. And I was like, okay, Autumn King, like, I didn't have any time for her at this point, and it doesn't get better. I don't like her again once we hit this like Team Caves arc. I was like, oh, I'm done. She literally has the communication skills of like a toddler, so it ends up leaving Hunt stumbling around next to her, trying to like stay in her favor. Like, he's actively pushing down his feelings or lying about how he feels and just pretending to be fine, which is so unhealthy, and it felt so abusive because it was like he was suddenly on eggshells trying to be what she wanted but she kept changing what she wanted. But yeah, Team Caves figures out that the island is built on a huge thing of black salt, so Helena must have done it. They find a secret chamber that she built, similarly carved with like drawings of the constellations and stuff, and they realize that they need to drink the water laced with the black salt, and maybe it will take them to hell, because that's how, you know, you make the portals before and you can summon the demons. It's all connected. This was interesting. I liked this. It works, and they visit the princes down in hell, so we get to see hell for the first time. It's basically just like darkness and a temple, but it's cool that we get to see a little bit more of it. We get confirmation that, like, yeah, hell knew everything the whole time, so that's exhausting. Also, Hunt was made as a compliment to Bryce's power, so they built the Thunderbirds in hopes that a Starborn person would come, and then the Thunderbirds got hunted because they were too powerful, so they made Hunt and made him an angel. He's basically like a test tube baby. So they assure us that nothing was done to his mom, okay? Like, it was all, you know, medical and stuff. But they basically built Hunt to be born and then wait for Bryce. So, because remember, Hunt's much older than her. So, now this is nice. The black halo, like thorn of crowns that the angels wear when their powers are stifled, is basically the freaking black collars from Throne of Glass, okay? Like the things that they made Dorian wear, and the obsidian rings and stuff like that. That's all connected. In hell, they were also collars. So I was frothing at the mouth. I was like, that's incredible news. But they also say that the princes weren't able to be held by them. So Hunt, as a son of hell, should not be held by them either. Bryce once again flips the script here and is super kind and like takes care of Hunt when it's clear that he can't talk for himself. She asks questions that they need answered and like lays her hand on his leg and is taking care of him. But again, don't forget that just a few pages ago, she was being so mean. The princes talk about how the ultimate goal is to send the Asteri themselves into like the Pocket of Nothing, which is created when the blades are used. The Star Sword and Truth Teller, they go together, okay? When they're used at the same time, a Pocket of Nothing is made. But it's really dangerous and it might suck everybody in with it. And I was cracking up thinking about Reese reaching into the Pocket of Nothing for a Christmas present and pulling out one of the Asteri. I could not keep that image out of my head. Bryce looks at these princes of hell and goes, so what I'm hearing is you want me to open up the Northern Rift so you guys can come through and save the day? What are you? Yes, that's literally been the whole point, the whole time, okay? Adius has been saying to you, if you would just open the rift, the armies will come through and we will help you win. Be so for real right now, Bryce. Be so for, I'm at the edge of my seat about to just yank your ponytail off your head. And even Adius is like, well, yes. When Bryce and Hunt wake up from their trip to hell, they find the kings have found them. They're all in the room together now, and the friends have been encircled by a wall of fire magic by the Autumn King, which is not good. Because we know Bryce, she's probably just gonna say barbecue them, see if I care. I clearly don't. And yeah, I'm right. Once again, she's literally like, okay, go ahead and kill them. I'm not gonna tell you anything. But then internally, we get some moments of Bryce being like, you know what? Maybe not all Fae are evil. Maybe my friends and my brother are actually worth saving. Maybe it's just the kings that suck. And it's like, yes. Yes. Thank you for stating the obvious. Fighting ensues. Okay, Bryce ends up nuking the murder twins' brains, so they're dead. Rune stabs the Autumn King through the heart and then beheads him, so I guess that confirms he was a bad guy all along. I do love the way Rune does it, though. He gives up the fact that he has mind-speaking powers in this moment, and the Autumn King, like, almost shits his pants, and it's pretty incredible to let Rune be the one to do the killing. I thought that was nice. Rune then yields his crown and his title to Bryce, so she's, like, officially Queen of the Valbaran Fae. Even though Morven also yields, she kills him anyway because she doesn't trust him, and she's kind of, like, purging the rot of like the evil Fae. That's not really how she pitches it to us, but that's definitely what she's doing. So she's also Queen of the Avalon Fae now, which is great for everyone. Hunt tries to talk to her about how she might be feeling about all of this, and we literally get on page, but Bryce ignored him. That's gonna keep happening, baby. Like, keep your chin up, because she's not gonna listen to you. I forgot to tell you guys something really important. Back in the ACOTAR world, when she was in the prison, she found the piece of Celine's power that was actually Thea's power, that when she broke her power into 3, she gave to Celine, okay? So Bryce finds that. So when she goes back to Midgard and lands in her dad's office, she has her natural Starborn powers and Celine's power, which like levels her up. While she's in this moment in Avalon, she also finds Helena's piece of the puzzle. Once she does that, Avalon like returns to the ultra magical, beautiful place that it once was before the family line was kind of quote unquote poisoned. Flynn makes his first oak tree. We love to see it. Also, this is only 69% of the way through. And I'm not even really telling you everything. I'm going into more detail than I thought I was going to go into because I wrote the script, so I might as well read it to you. But this is not even every little tiny thing. And we are only at 69%. I was dying thinking about Reese going to the prison and finding this like rush of familial connection and everything. But we don't get to see it, so I don't know why I got excited. Also, Celine looks like his sister, okay? So if he could just watch the hologram, he could see her young and old because she recorded it at the end of her life as well. So he could get a moment of looking at his sister as an older woman. And just, I want you to just think about the closure that that could bring him finally, because her death was so horrific and it really affected him. We could have gotten closure. Ethan and Hypaxia get to Avalon because that's where Sophie's body was sent by Cormac, and thankfully Morven had not gotten rid of it yet. But they are immediately sent back to Crescent City because Bryce needs Hypaxia to work on an antidote for the parasite in the water, and she wants Ethan to guard Hypaxia because he is a wolf. Bryce basically tells him to get fucked here about fixing Sigrid because they have bigger fish to fry, and I'm gonna be real, I agree with her. Like, we didn't need all of that nonsense with Sigrid to begin with, so I didn't really care if he got her back from being a Reaper or not. It doesn't matter to me. But they don't even get to do a group goodbye, okay? Like, they're all on Avalon together, and Ethan doesn't get any time with Rune to, like, you know, reconnect about the fact that Rune's out of prison and stuff, or say hi to Declan and Flynn and apologize for leaving and going back to Crescent City. None of that happens, okay? They very quickly get split up, and then Bryce is like, get back on the boat, you need to go back to Crescent City, go do what I said. And so they just get kicked out, basically, and they go back to town. Also, turns out that Bryce told everyone Hunt's business about being a son of hell, which was super appropriate and nice of her to do. Bax gets bumped up to second in command and basically told that he's gonna stay on Avalon and watch over the Avalon Fae and the refugees that come to stay, because the Avalon Fae are kind of rioting a little bit and they don't really want to help because for some reason the Fae on Midgard suck, okay? I know there are shitty Fae in ACOTAR as well, but for the most part the ACOTAR Fae are like relatively well adjusted and normal. The freaking Midgard Fae, a different breed of crazy. And then Fishy gets sent down to see the River Queen, who wants him dead. So he's immediately like, I don't think I should go do that. And Sathya's like, yeah, I'm not sure that's safe for him. And Bryce is like, did I stutter? Get in the water. Flynn also makes a small grove of oak trees around them while they're having this war council meeting. So my bestie boy, he loves making his oak trees. Rune, Lydia, and the bros are going back to Crescent City as well, but they don't get to ride with Hypaxia and Ethan for some reason. They need to go meet up with Isaiah and Naomi and possibly avoid Celestina, or maybe also get her involved. But they want that group to get the angels on their side because they need them, and Isaiah and Naomi are nice people. So does that make any sense to you? Because it certainly doesn't make any sense to Rune. And he's like, oh, so you want us to go back to the city to die? Is that what you're saying? And he's so right, because why does that make more sense than Baxian going back to the city and talking to Isaiah and Naomi who know him? Why wouldn't that make more sense? And then Rune and Flynn and Deck. Flynn is a lord of Midgard, okay? He's like important back in the city, and Rune is the old crown prince. Wouldn't you think the Fae on Avalon would listen to them a little bit better? But sure, Bryce, you're in charge. You're the queen, sweetie. You make the decisions. Oh my god, we get an incredible moment of the group sleeping in the stables for their last night on Avalon, and Lydia and Rune are next to each other. They start sexy mind speaking to each other. She rubs up on him a little bit. Things are getting flirty. He is fighting for his life. And then from the other side of him, Flynn goes, "Please don't fuck right next to us." I cackled. Remember Fury, okay, and Juniper? I didn't even mention them in the character breakdown. You are about to be so angry because, wow, I was livid. They show up on a helicopter from Crescent City with Ember and Randall, Bryce's parents, and her little brother, whose name is now Cooper. I think his name originally was Emil. They show up, right? And Fury and Juniper have a scene with Bryce, and then they get left behind on Avalon too. So they're gonna stay with Baxian and help him. You're telling me that Fury, who we have been told countless times is this like incredible mercenary, super powerful, super scary, isn't even going to be in the final battle? So her parents have been brought over to Avalon. Bryce makes a point of being like, Hunt and I are going to where the Northern Rift is, and we are taking my dad because my dad has skills we need. And then for some reason, also her mom gets to come. And so that's when I was immediately like, oh, she's up to some nonsense. But boy, oh boy, was I not in any way prepared for what she's going to do. Ethan takes the antidote that it takes Hypaxia like 2 days, if even. I think it might be like 24 hours, okay? She makes the antidote so super quickly. He takes it. Turns out he's a shifting fae from the Throne of Glass world. So not only can he turn into a wolf, he's got ice magic. So he goes to the den to try to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and it goes horribly wrong. Perry is there. Okay, she is Amelie, the mean alpha wolf, okay? She's her little sister, and she's like an omega, so she's bottom of the bottom. But she likes Ethan, and so she's nice to him, and she helps him gather the wolf group. That not everybody's at the den. Some of them are away conveniently, but a lot of them are there. So they all get gathered into the courtyard, and he tells them the truth. Also, Perry is his mate. From the jump, it was very obvious to me. We did not get confirmation, but like Perry the Platypus and Ethan are in fact mates. Sabine shows up, and she's got Sigrid with her, and she's basically like, look at what he did to my niece, my beautiful sweet niece who I named as heir, which pisses Emily off because she's like, girl, I'm already your heir. What are you talking about? So now Sabine's like, Sigrid's my heir, and Ethan killed her, and now she's back to us evil, but it's okay. We're gonna have a Reaper as an heir anyway, and one day she'll be your freaking prime. And me and the other wolves were like, hold on. So thankfully, the Ancient Prime, which is Sabine's dad and Danica's grandfather, he comes out, and he's like, up. It's time for you to stop speaking, Sabine, because you're toxic and awful, and I'm finally ready to put my little knobbly foot down and tell you to frick off. He says Ethan's telling the truth. The parasite's real, the Asteria real, all of that's real. Danica knew, and that's why Danica was killed. And now the Prime wants Ethan to not only be an alpha, but also be Prime. And he names Ethan as his heir and tells Sabine to get fucked. Obviously, she doesn't handle that very well. So she beheads her father right in front of everybody, and then freaking Sigrid eats his soul. So there's no coming back from that. The Prime is dead. Ethan, though, is ultra super powerful now, so he shifts like lightning fast, which is the way that the Fae over in the Throne of Glass world could shift. Remember how it was like, boop, and they turn into their animal forms? That can happen to Ethan now. So he does that. Sabine is like, whoa, what the heck? The other wolves are like, hold on, what's going on? Ethan bites Danica's sword in half because now Sabine's been using it. So he bites that sword in half, shatters it, and then eats Sabine. Yes, you heard that correctly. The other wolves are shook, and so they're like, okay, well, he's crazy, and they bow down to him and submit. So he is now officially Prime. I'm so glad that that took so many chapters to get to. Man, but I will say this moment where all the wolves howl, and all of a sudden Ethan hears a howl from the bone quarter, and he knows it's Connor. That got me. That got me. That got me. Over at the Northern Rift, Bryce opens up a portal, not to hell, like she told everybody she was gonna do, but back to Akatar, and we see Nesta sitting in the living room in the House of Wind, reading a smut book. Reese, in the background through the windows, starts like racing towards them. I don't know where he was. Maybe he was over in the prison. I'm not sure. But the stars start winking out. and the city starts disappearing. So the High Lord's big mad, okay, and he's on his way. Nesta wants the knife back pronto, and I was so thankful that she asked for that because it proved to me that Azriel is curled up somewhere, hands and knees, sobbing in the fetal position, okay? I know that man is struggling. Bryce wants the mask, and she offers her parents as surprise collateral. Show of hands, do you think she told her parents that she was gonna do that? No. Do you think her parents can tell that she's doing that? No, because remember, they can't speak the language. Ooh, I don't know if I told you that or not. When Bryce went to Akatar, they had to give her a magical little bean that she swallowed, and it was basically like a language translator, so she could understand their language. When it becomes clear that Nesta's not going to give her the mask, Bryce is like, then take my parents anyway, and that does something to Nesta, and she gives her the mask as like a fighting chance, and before her parents can say anything to Bryce, Hunt pushes them through the portal with his magic. They stumble into the Akatar world to Nesta and Rhys, who is quickly approaching, but he's not there yet, and then freaking Bryce shuts the portal. What really bugged me here is that Cooper, her little brother, that they adopted and have been raising for like at least a year, maybe 2 years now, is just stuck in Avalon with Baxian. So once again, no parents, no family. She took that decision from him. I just want to strangle her. Right when the portal closes, the Harpy shows up, but don't worry, Bryce now has the mask, and because of all that excellent Thea Starborn magic, she's able to use it no problem, which was infuriating because we got that scene where Nesta struggles with the mask, and the mask answers to Nesta. So I guess it's because of Thea's magic that Bryce is able to like literally just take it on and off, no problem, no struggle. But man, it felt convenient. Then Isaiah, Naomi, and Celestina show up. So what was the point of Rune and Lydia and Flynn and Deck going to freaking Crescent City? There wasn't one. There wasn't a point. Hunt wants to kill Celestina on sight, but Bryce is like, hold on, maybe we need her help. He goes full feral though and rips off the, halo tattoo on him. So now he's like unleashed his full power. He also takes it off Isaiah. So Isaiah's at full power now. I guess Naomi didn't have one. That's fine. He's squaring up at Celestina and she's like, how do you have archangel magic, but you're not an archangel? And he's like, because I'm the Umbra Mortis. And I was ready. I was like, whatever this is, let him cook. This is incredible energy. Hunt, I think I love you now. And Bryce opens her big freaking mouth and is like, no, Hunt, you aren't. Girl. So she just shuts that energy down, even though a few chapters ago, she was like, I need you at full strength. I need you to do whatever it takes. I need you to be that guy again. Now she's like, don't do that at all, okay? I actually just want you to be Hunt. Just Hunt. That's all I want from you. So that was exhausting, okay? Because Hunt was finally like figuring out how he wanted to use his powers and who he wanted to be. And she took that from him. And so he ends up being like, oh, you're right. Maybe I am just Hunt. Maybe that's all I've ever needed to be, which was so infuriating. And then Bryce reveals her even bigger plan to everybody gathered there today, okay? Yes, they are opening up the Northern Rift. They're gonna let Hell's army in. But also, she would like to use the mask to break into the Asteri's palace, find the Wall of Wings of the Fallen, which is the group of angels that Hunt fought with and got in trouble with, and all of them died, okay? She wants to resurrect the pieces of their souls that still exist in their wings because they were never given proper burials and stuff. So their souls are still connected with the wings. She wants to bring them back and make them like merge with the mech suits because it's not free will, free choice. Okay, she says she'll give them free will, free choice. No, that's not what she ends up doing later on, all right? That's not what happens. And she wants them to be in the mech suits that the Asteri are gonna use and basically join the battle and fight again. So Hunt is like, I'm sorry, you want to resurrect my dead friends that I had to watch die in a pointless battle that didn't end up amounting to anything. You would like to bring them back and ask them to do it again. I don't think I'm comfortable with that, Bryce. And she says, get fucked, Hunt. We're doing it, okay? So I need you to stop being a big baby and let me do what needs to be done. She's genuinely upset with him for being upset about this. Like, she's mad that he's upset. Oh, on site, Bryce Quinlan, on site. And then they open the portal again because Hunt ends up agreeing to it and being like, whatever you need, Bryce, I trust you. I don't at all. Anyway, they open the portal again. The princes come through. They bring their armies. It's very scary. But the battle's ramping up. Here we go. Fishy goes to the River Queen and we see her daughter. And it is so petty and pointless. I don't like the way the River Queen's daughter is written, because when he says like, well, I'll divorce Sathya and I'll marry you anyway, she's like, awesome, incredible, I accept, yay, that sounds great. And it's just like, girl, do better. Like, he is so not worth your time and energy, okay? He's like Warner from Legally Blonde. Like, you don't need him. But he kind of explodes and like has this whole like, you're right, what I did was wrong and I'm sorry and blah, 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 don't punish the people of Midgard. And so the River Queen is like, man, if you're willing to stand up to me and prove that you're a good male and, you know, your wife clearly cares about you. And it's like, they married because, yes, he was trying to save her, but like, he was feeling guilty. And so he did like the one thing that he thought would win back favor for his friends. I don't know, man. They try to pitch it as like he married Sathya because he wanted to avenge what happened to his sister. And if his sister was alive, he would hope that, you know, Decker Flynn would do that for him. And I'm like, they probably wouldn't, bro, because you're not that good of friends yet. And we haven't seen you bond with them very much at all, but whatever. So yeah, the River Queen agrees to help everybody. And she's like, if people will come down here, we will give them safe harbor. And then the Viper Queen shows up. She fights with Fishy and Sathya a little bit. And we see Sathya's ex-boyfriend, freaking Colin McCarthy. Again, I guess she decided that Scotland and Ireland are a thing in Midgard. And he is one of the enslaved guards, and that is going to come back to haunt us in a big way. Rune and Lydia are finally feeling pretty good, getting pretty close, and then they find out that the boys have been kidnapped by Pollux, so that is big bad. Ethan goes to the Bone Quarter to talk to Connor, and we get some lore dropped about the Underking. It's making some people think that the Midgard world is just the Throne of Glass world, like literally 15,000 years in the future. Personally, I don't think that that's true, because then why did the Shifting Fae come through into Midgard? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I think that Midgard is just the point between ACOTAR world and Throne of Glass world, but what do I know? I'm simply just a girl at the end of the day. I thought, personally, maybe the Underking was Erwin's brother, because we know, like, in the Throne of Glass universe, that the brothers got sent away, and I was like, maybe the Underking is just one of them, because he's real chill about what goes on with the Asteri, and he like is buddy-buddy with them and stuff, so it felt like maybe he was one of them the whole time. That doesn't get confirmed or denied, because Ethan gets so upset with him after seeing Connor and realizing what Connor's going through that he freezes the Underking with his magic, and then Jessica shows up and tricks Hypaxia into breaking him so he explodes, and then he's dead, and Hypaxia suddenly, without any warning or, you know, knowledge that this is going to happen, becomes the Under Queen. So isn't it convenient that she got demoted and isn't a witch queen anymore? Now she rules the freaking Bone Quarter. Yay! We do get to see Connor, though, as I said, and now that Hypaxia is the Under Queen, she gives him permission to speak, and he's able to use his voice, and he explains to Ethan that they have been sacrificing their second light intentionally because they built a bullet somehow for Bryce to use in the Godslayer rifle as like an upper hand for the Asteri. So Connor, you know, gives up the last remaining bit of his soul, which is the second light, and then Ethan puts it, all of it, like the little contained nugget, into a bullet, and then is going to take that bullet to Bryce. Fun fact, I'm already gone, Ethan, as Connor steps into the gate, is the first time I cried. And it was chapter 83 of 102. So, in chapter 85, we get an incredible Bryce and Hunt moment where she says, I got you, sweetheart, which is what he said to her when they met the first time and he was trying to like fix her leg after she got attacked by that demon. And he says to her in this moment, light it up, Bryce, which is her special thing with Danica. Where was this energy in the other 84 chapters? Because this was nice. That scene is immediately followed by quite honestly the worst sex scene I've ever read in my entire life. I don't know what happened here. I did see somebody say that SJM is like officially new adult instead of young adult. And I think maybe that's what did it, because the language was different and I hated that. The word choice, oh boy, it was rough. It was just so bad. It was just so bad. And again, it didn't even necessarily feel out of character. Like, I mean, they had scenes, I think only in the second Crescent City book. But like, man, it was bad. It was rough. It was 0 out of 10. 0 out of 10. I was shocked by how much I hated it. And then Rune and Lydia get a sex scene, and I was so much more into that one. But I think what really got me is that there was something about the language between all 4 of them, okay, where it overlapped too much. So the boys were saying really similar things, the way she was describing things in their thoughts, like while they're like being touched by each other and stuff, the way they were reacting was like almost word for word the same. So it felt like reading the same couple having sex in just 2 different scenes, but it only really worked for me in Rune and Lydia. I don't know why the language, I guess, well, maybe I do. You know that scene that's like, Rune Dan and knew 3 things with clarity. It felt like that. It felt like that Rune with Lydia, a little bit more romantic. It was nice. But yeah, whatever was going on with Hunt and Bryce, I was not feeling it. Not feeling it. Also, Rune says, I love you to Lydia first. So cute. He's so soft. We got such confirmation that he is a soft boy. Fishy takes the antidote, so he's at full power, and then Sathia leaves him to go save Colin because she can't leave him behind. The wolves freaking dip out on Ethan, okay, so they scatter to the winds. After he wasted some antidote on a few of them to like test it out and see what everybody's powers were, and he is prime. I cannot believe that they left. So we get Ethan in the final battle. He is the only wolf shifter involved in the final battle. Absolutely absurd. When they head into the final battle, Lydia is obviously really upset and worried about the fact that Pollux, who we know, he was vile in this book. Okay, I didn't even really get into it with you because I skipped most of his stuff, okay? Absolute vile, atrocious man. Just all the things that he did in the first 2, 10,000 times worse in this one, okay? Just disgusting. And he's got her children. So she's understandably very upset. Bryce turns around, looks her in the eyeballs and goes, could you like leave the baggage behind today? I had to walk away from the book. I literally had to close my computer and go touch grass because I was like, I'm shaking with rage over a character that is simply words on a page. I don't need to be this heated about it, but oh man. Bryce uses the mask on the wings. They go soaring off through the windows. They're gonna go join with the mech suits. But then Regulus shows up and he's like, you guys are so stupid. I'm an evil genius and I saw when you opened the rift to hell because I was looking through the harpy's eyes. Ha ha ha. So I sent my army over there. They're gonna go right into hell and kill everybody. So you guys are gonna lose. And Bryce and Hunt are like, oh no, that's terrible. We have to go warn Adius. So they teleport away. But surprise, surprise, everything works out for them. Thankfully, it was Hunt that had this idea this time and not Bryce. If it had been Bryce's idea, oh, I would have been so angry. But it was Hunt's idea, which makes a little bit more sense because he is Walmart Cassian. Okay, so he's done this before. And he knew that Regulus was cocky and thought they were stupid. So he banked on the fact that if they left half the army to guard the rift, the army that goes over there to fight them would be decimated. And then the remaining army over here would also be decimated. So they're prepared for this. And they have 2 armies in both places and everything's gonna be fine. They do use the wings and join them up with the mech suits. Once again, she does not ask them permission first. She just says, go. Fight for us. Listen to Isaiah and Naomi. Don't kill our people. Kill the Asteri. And Isaiah's like, fallen, you are now risen. And I think we were supposed to like, woo, that's so cool. I hated it because she said she was going to ask them to use their bodies or not use their bodies. And she didn't. So hated that. The Princes of Hell help square up with the Asteri, like face to face. We get this incredible moment where Apollyon is like, it's been an age. And I was like, oh, there's something about that one. He's crazy and I love him. Bryce ends up killing one of them with the sword and the dagger. It does in fact make a black hole and it sucks her in. all I could think was like, okay, so if we put the Asteri there, where are we gonna put the Christmas presents? Rune and Lydia are racing around the palace looking for her kids. They cannot find them. She ends up going a little feral mama bear mode, almost shoots Rune in the head when he tries to be like, hey, could you slow down a little bit? We need to be careful. This is clearly a trap. She's like, ha ha, no. So Rune ends up shooting her in the thigh to wound her so that he can go forward to get the boys without her because he's too afraid that she's being reckless and she will get herself or all of them killed. And I saw somebody today who made a really good point about the fact that she was in an abusive relationship where a lot of her agency was taken from her, and then Rune goes and does this after he knows the kind of stuff Pollux did to her. I'm gonna be so real, in the moment, I didn't catch that because I think it's in Rune's point of view. So we see his thinking and we see him freaking out about how she is truly so frantic and she's not paying attention to things. And he is just doing, in the moment, the only thing he can think of to like keep her from getting herself killed. And so it didn't bother me. But then when you kind of add that layer of like, should he have done that? Like, no, obviously not. So I don't know. I guess I just feel kind of complicated about it. When I first read it, I didn't see anything. I didn't like that he did it, but I didn't see anything like, you know, horrible about it. But I get where people are coming from because it is a shitty thing to do. He was just trying in the moment to do what he thought was best, and it wasn't a good thing. So I don't know. It's complicated, but I'm telling you. Anyway, moving on. It is a trap though, so he was correct. So Pollux has the boys hidden somewhere else, so he ends up kidnapping Rune, and then they go looking for Lydia together, and Fishy somehow gets into the palace with his water, and I think he is moving the water through the palace with him. That's at least how it's implied, okay? Because he just shows up in the hallway with water and a tail, and he saves Lydia, gets her out of there. Fishy has to give Lydia an antidote because she's not healing quick enough because of the leg wound. Her wildfire is now unleashed. When they all meet up again, Fishy gets shot in the chest and it is not looking good for him. So Rune is like, okay, up, I'm stepping in. He throws himself in front of Pollux and the boys and says like, I'm Lydia's mate. Take me instead. Do whatever you want to do to me. Just give her back the boys and let her go. Like, killing me will hurt just as much, which is a hot take because those are her children. I'm not sure if it would hurt as much, but it does have the desired effect. And Lydia is like, Rune, no. So he shuts down the mind connection between them, but not until he says to her that he loved her soul to soul first, and it will be his soul that finds her in the next life. But Pollux is truly the devil, so he doesn't just want Rune or just want the boys, he wants all three of them. So he's like, delicious, I'll kill you all, this is incredible. So then Lydia gets involved for real, and she incinerates Pollux, like from the inside out, just turns him to ash and he just crumbles to the ground. Incredible, and it's exactly what Aelin did to the guards in Ilium at the Temple of Brannon. Yeah, turns out his name is Brannon. Like, I know we knew that. I know we were all like, about that, but like, no. His name is Brannon, and she named him after some like ancient fae stories about an old king. Ace also calls her mom for the first time, 10 out of 10. Rune takes an antidote too. Turns out he has healing magic. Incredible. He saves Fishy. Very convenient, but I liked that for Rune because again, soft boy. It made sense for me that not only would he have his shadow magic, but he'd be able to heal. I thought that was so nice. Lydia runs off to help on the front lines now that she is like Aelin wildfiring all over the place, and she tells Rune to take the boys to safety. Bryce realizes that she is unfortunately weakening and she doesn't have much teleportation power left in her. Somehow, even though she was all leveled up, they have not taken the antidote yet. Ethan had antidotes for them, and so did Fishy, and then they both ended up either breaking all of them or giving them to other people and not saving a vial for Hunt and Bryce. So Hunt and Bryce do not take the antidote during the final battle, and somehow they still win. Anyway, Bryce lies to Hunt, she leaves him with the mask, and she teleports back into the main chamber room where the first light is, which he was trying to blow that up. He was making like a crater in the floor and then they were gonna explode it, okay? She gets into the room leaves him behind. The Asteri are in the room with her, and she's like, okay, I have one shot with the Godslayer rifle now that Ethan has given me this magic bullet with the second light. I've got to blow up the first light core. Regulus is like, if you do that, that's the kill switch, and all of Midgard will wink out of existence. So good luck. So Bryce does this weird thing, okay? And I don't know how best to describe it to you because it was confusing on page. She shoots into the first light core, okay? So the first light core is exploding. Then she uses the horn to make her own black hole to eat the kill switch black hole. So it all gets like sucked into each other, okay? It makes a crater on the floor in the palace, but the Asteri, the first light core, and Bryce get sucked into this like horn-made black hole that she made to eat the other black hole. I hope that makes sense. I think that's what happened. That might not even be technically what happened. That is what I got from it. And I read it twice. I was so confused. Outside, the battle is winding down because the fire sprites came back, and with Lydia, they were able to like really decimate the Asteri's weapons. So they're kind of down for the count. Hell is like decimating the armies. I mean, it's going good for everybody. A little too good, but it's fine. Hunt and the princes realize what Bryce has done, and Hunt can't go in after her because it's deep space that they've gotten sucked into, and he will not be able to fly because there is no air. So one of the mech suits lands behind him and holds out a hand to him and opens up the hatch for him to get inside, and he realizes it's Shahar, like his ex-girlfriend that led the army with him. Now look, that had me in a chokehold. I was losing it. I thought that was so sweet. So she helps him get to Bryce because it's a mech suit, so there's like propulsion involved. They get into her, and then she even helps him aim the bullet properly because Bryce and Regulus at this point are fighting and like trying to pull each other over the horizon line so that they like either one or both die. And she also took Regulus's power, so she's like juiced up, but she can't do anything with the power that she's got because she's in deep space being sucked towards a black hole. So a different bullet, not the second light bullet, that one's already been used. A different bullet gets fired from the mech suit, and Shahar wraps her spirit around the bullet and sends it perfectly into Regulus, knocking him across the horizon line, but also freeing Bryce. Hunt is able to get Bryce and then use the propulsion to get out of there, okay? Also, Hunt's wearing the mask. Didn't tell you that. Hunt's got the mask on. How was he able to use the mask? You might be wondering. Oh, I'm so glad you asked. When that awful sex scene happened with him and Bryce, somehow their power went into each other. So he has just a little nugget of made magic in him, and it's enough for him to be able to use the mask. Oh. Once they get to the safety of the outside world and the portal closes, Hunt realizes that Bryce is dead. Now, everyone is standing around absolutely shocked about what's happened and the fact that Bryce is dead. It's very much giving the end of Aka War, where Rhys dies and Farah's like, somebody do something! It's that moment. Dek and Rune can't do anything, even with their healing magic, because she's gone. Like, there's nothing to bring back. They're also concerned because, remember, she gave up her soul when Danica was in trouble, so now maybe she doesn't even have a soul to bring back to her body, and they don't know what's gonna happen. Flynn starts praying, and Hunt is like, enough prayers, we're not doing that. Don't yell at my boy, he was trying to be helpful. And then Jessica shows up, and she tells them that Hypaxia can help, because now Hypaxia is queen of the Bone Quarter, and also she's a necromancer. She's not real good at her job, so I'm not feeling great about that, but sure, why not? Jessica wants to do a trade, so she will give up her immortal life if it means that Bryce can be given back her, like, long Fey life. Apollyon agrees to it, even though he's real mad at Jessica. And he's like, priestess, what are you doing here? And she's like, still waiting for my books, prince. Weird moment, okay, but he agrees because it's Bryce. So of course he agrees. Hunt, thankfully, points out the obvious here. And he looks at Jessica and he goes, you know, I didn't even think you liked Bryce that much. And she's like, excuse me, do you know how hard it is to find a competent assistant? I wanted to stop reading. This was like chapter 100 or something of 102, and I was like, oh my god. It was just so anticlimactic and dumb, because Hunt is right. There was not enough of a friendship or familial buildup between Jessica and Bryce for that to make sense. Now, if Randall and Ember had maybe one or both of them given up their remaining human years in order to save her, that would have been pretty freaking cool. Or even like Rune, or God forbid, the Autumn King. If that had been his redemption arc, kind of similar to what happened with Dorian and his dad, if one of them had been like, we'll give up our Fae life so that she can have a Fae life. Like, I don't know, anything would have been better than Jessica, in my opinion. Or, you know what? As I already said, she could have just freaking died, and Hunt could have even gone in after her, because when they realize she's like sucked in and she's so far away, Adis is like, you can go in with her. Like, if that's what you want to do, you should do it quick. And you know, you guys can go together. And he was being really sweet about it because he already lost Thea. So he knows what that feels like. But Hunt was like, no, I refuse. She can't be dead. And so we ended up here instead. But how, I feel like that could have been kind of cool if like Bryce and Hunt were like the weapons and they were the pawns of the war. And so losing them is like the true end of the war. And then Lydia and Rune could have become the main characters because we all know that we were rooting for them more, at least most of us. I also saw somebody say that they really wish that Crescent City had actually been from Lydia's point of view the entire time and she was our main character, because how cool would it have been to have Crescent City from the very beginning be told by Agent Daybright and the Hind, and then somewhere in there we find out that that's one person, Lydia. Oh, we would have all just been deceased. We could not have handled that. Anyway, in the Heaven world, when Jessica comes to tell Bryce that she needs to go back to her body and Jessica's gonna trade with her and all that nonsense, we do get to see Danica and the Pack of Devils. Jessica explains like the Underking couldn't take away love or something. Power friendship, woo! But it was really sweet to see Danica, and I did cry again, because anytime those two, Bryce and Danica, are on page together, I'm like, oh my god. So, okay, Bryce wakes up. Yay, and now they gotta handle the end of the war. Isaiah is put in charge of the Angels. Ethan is Prime, and absolutely he's mates with Perry, but they don't figure that out on page. Adis and the others go back to hell. He's finally at peace, and Bryce says to him maybe he'll see Thea again one day, and he's like, oh, I hope so. I hope I get to go to heaven. Lydia and Rune move in together. We do get to see the boys say goodbye to her, and it's really sweet. Ace is like on her team now, and they're gonna be reunited. Rune gets a house big enough for them to have like a guest room for the boys. So very sweet, very cute. Fishy goes looking for his wife and ends up running into Ari. And then that is where that chapter ends. I wish I was kidding. I wish I was joking with you, but that's how that ends. He literally turns around and is like, Ari? And then it says like, the dragon shifter smiled at him. And that is the end of that point of view. And that's all we get. Bryce once again opens up the portal to Akatar. Thank God. She gives back Truth Teller. She also gives back the mask. And she gives Nesta the Star Sword. And she says she's done with it. She doesn't want it anymore. And she wants Nesta to figure out why there's an 8-pointed star on her chest. Ember and Randall get brought back over into Midgard. They're upset with Bryce. They're not nearly as upset as they should be. And they're not upset on page. Ember in the bonus chapter was like, Reese, don't even bother yelling at Bryce, okay? I'm gonna yell at her when I get back to her. And it was a whole thing where Ember like stood up to Reese and bonded with Nesta and all of this. She healed Nesta's mommy issues. I kind of wish that chapter had been in the book. I kind of wish it had, because then we get a little bit more Reese on page, but whatever. Bryce has a moment where she looks at Cassian and realizes like, oh, Hunt is Walmart Cassian. Oh, no wonder Nesta and I get along. And I was like, thank God, at least she sees it too. Then Bryce goes home and abolishes the Fae monarchy on Midgard. She dismantles the wealth and basically has it like passed down to the humans and like the injured people of the city to like help rebuild. She basically tells the Fae to get wrecked and enjoy being in the dirt with all of the rest of them. And it's a choice. It's like I said, the Fae on Midgard are genuinely pretty terrible. Obviously not all of them though, but she does in fact punish all of them. So I don't know. She then takes over Jessica's job over in the antique store, which is nice because that's kind of what Bryce always wanted to do, which again is why I kind of wish Bryce wasn't our main character. There's nothing wrong with like simple life, simple living. It's a modern fantasy, so it's kind of nice that she ends up with like a normal girl job, but I just think it was a letdown a little bit. The book almost ends with a desk sex scene between Hunt and Bryce, and then thankfully the phone rings. It's Baxian, who, in case you were wondering, is still stuck over in Avalon with Fury and Juniper. He's like, please, there's so many of them. They're eating all our crops. I'm scared. They freak out. They're like, who are you talking about? What's happening? And he goes, flying horses. Flying horses with wings. Please come help me. I can't. I was cackling. It was so good. He really and truly became my favorite character, and I never saw it coming. Hunt tells Bryce he would do anything to see Jelly Jubilee in the flesh, and they go racing off to Avalon, out into the unknown, together. And that's the final word of the book. Okay, so like final thoughts, was the book terrible? No, it wasn't. About 50% of it was good and I enjoyed it. Will I read it again? Absolutely not. I'm not picking up Crescent City. You couldn't pay me, okay? I will be watching either this video back or Carrie's videos in the future to get a recap because I'm not going back in this world. You can't make me. Would I read the next one? Yeah. Absolutely, of course I will. And I'm hoping that SJM hears us and understands where we're coming from because, again, I'm an SJM girly, okay? I'm not trying to hate on her. I am in no way an SJM hater. I would be lying if I told you that. I will absolutely read whatever she puts out next, but I'm gonna continue to be honest about how I feel about it because my biggest fear is coming true. And that is, I don't think she's being edited as much anymore. Either the editing team is just like, you know, kind of stepping back and being like, oh, it doesn't really matter. She can write anything and they'll read it. Or they're just like not feeling comfortable giving feedback anymore because she's getting so big. I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not in publishing yet. I don't know how it all works, but it just feels like something is slipping there where she's kind of just able to write whatever now. And nobody's checking her or giving her feedback that she needs because this book could have been excellent. It could have easily been the best of the Crescent City books. And it just wasn't. It fell so flat. The ending was so anticlimactic. The way Bryce's character was handled to me specifically was just like major character assassination. Like she was so over the top extra this time around and I did not enjoy it. I felt similarly to Reese in Silver Flames, but I think that ultimately comes down to like it being in Nesta's point of view, so I can overlook that a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I just think she's falling back on like plot devices like that are just convenient, and she'll change her characters if she needs them to be different just for convenience sake, and I don't like that. I think it's kind of lazy. And it made this book kind of a slog for me at several points. So that was really, really disappointing because I was so excited about this book, guys. I was so excited. And I read it so quickly. I started reading it on the 30th when it came out. I was so pumped and ready. And it was not good. It was not what I wanted it to be. And I don't want to lie. So I'm here to tell you my truth. That being said though, if you felt differently or if you agree, please don't hesitate to comment down below. I'd love to talk to you guys about it and hear everybody's differing opinions. That's why I wanted to get this video out so early, because these are just kind of my initial thoughts. And I would be game to, you know, keep talking about it and make some more videos in this series, just discussing the characters and things that happened, which is something that I've been doing with Throne of Glass and ACOTAR as well. Be kind to each other down below as best we can. I don't want anybody, you know, fighting, because our opinions are just our opinions and we're allowed to disagree. It's all fine. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. We just all feel the way we feel. That's fine. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you so soon. Have a good one. Bye.